all like Superman. You're all like Superman out right here. You're wearing the.
I got my.
That's
nice.
nice.
I found this hat. I saw this hat at the gas station the other day. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I can tell it was originally a flat bill, and you just like were just bending the fuck out of that.
I've been bending it ever since, and it's kind of gotten down because I'm like, I don't like flat bills. Fuck that. Like, I don't know. There's something about me like being like. There's just there is a time before the flat bills, and God, get the fuck out of here, you fucking Google Chrome. Fucking wanna shit fuck me? Sorry.
You shit fucked. You're shit.
Yeah, I was getting shit fucked by Google Chrome. Those fucking cocksuckers. But I don't know what it is. Like, I got a Batman hat that's kind of like this too, except for it's like gray, and it's got the bat symbol on there. And it's like, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I just come from a time period where like you were considered like the biggest dweeb if you had a fucking flat bill. Do you remember that back in like elementary school? If you had a flat bill, like you would get ridiculed.
I don't remember so much ridicule. I remember like most of the little. Maybe because you grew up mostly in Tuolumne County, so
like white power zone.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was kind of like if you saw someone with a flat bill hat. If you saw someone with a flat bill hat, that kid was trying to be like thug or trying to be like all like. And usually in all honesty,
before that time period though, because that wasn't around yet. Where like even like the thug guys and stuff were wearing the flat bills because they were still wearing like the bent bills and everything like that.
Those were the guys. I remember those were the guys that would back in at least San Jose. Those were the guys that would do it, and those are always. They were usually. Chances are they're usually a 11 to 14-year-old white kid trying to act thug. I remember that. So that's kind of like I think where a lot of my hatred for the flat bill comes from. It's like
I don't know what it is. It's just
people who watched like the Jamie Kennedy experiment like too early, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those ones like the flat. It's the flat bill on a white guy. Just I don't know what it was. It just makes me angry.
That was the Malibu's Most Wanted character, right? The Jamie Kennedy experiment thing.
Oh yeah, Malibu's Most Wanted. That's a funny movie.
Well, isn't that like isn't that character like a Jamie Kennedy character from his old hidden camera show or whatever the fuck?
That might have been. I did not know that if that's the case.
Yeah.
I just saw that movie and I was like, that's kind of funny. I remember my dad really liked that movie back in the day. He thought it was hilarious.
I bet it's one of those.
It seemed weird because it seemed so like modern and youthful and hip.
Well, it's really dated now, even like.
Oh yeah, now it's like a pocket of time.
I never saw it, but yeah. Anyway.
It was pretty funny, but you know, it's one of those movies, you know.
It's one of those ones I'm like, I'll take your word on it. You know?
But welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan. And you go ahead. Sorry, cut you off there.
I don't know. I was just gonna say, fucking, I can't remember now. But
you know what? We could kind of go in because originally we were talking about like, you know what? This week's gonna be pretty like Batman packed because the new graphic novel came out. Then Superman versus Batman came out. So, and then I'm sure we probably can find something else. We looked harder, but in all honesty,
I haven't got the graphic novel yet because it's still en route to my house.
Okay, well, I'll without spoiling it, I'll just kind of give you a quick sum up. I noticed something.
I gotta say we could talk about it.
No. What I'm going to say real quick, I'm not going to
because I haven't read it yet.
Sum up the story. I'm not going to spoil the story or any. I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. But it's doing that kind of thing where lately, most Scott Snyder's runs they kind of split them. So it's not really. This isn't. So
we're at the split section now.
Yeah. So it's kind of like.
Well, that makes sense because the last one was such a big like story arc.
Well, it's like the only one that seemed like kind of completely concise and in its own tight little bundle was the Death of the Family, and then before that you had a few before that you had Court of Owls, but the way Court of Owls ends, it doesn't seem like that's the end. That seems just kind of like, okay, we know who the Court of Owls are. Batman's they're just jumping into the night sky because now they're out there in Gotham and he's got a new enemy. Okay, then you get to the next one. Oh fuck, it's still going. You know what I mean? So Court of Owls Volume 1 seems like a more little tight kind of standalone story, even though it kind of goes in to Volume 2, and then. You know, we know the rest, you know. So this is one of those ones where it actually where it is kind of like they split his arc into two. So you read it, it's good, but it's kind of like, oh, that was a little short, but we'll talk about it when you get it.
Yeah, I was say because I know that's sometimes the only downfall to getting things off Amazon when you can't go to a store and pick up a graphic novel. But since this podcast is pretty much, if we had like a secondary category to anything, it's fucking Batman. That really is like, you know, more than anything else. It's like what we talk about movies, we talk about all kinds of video game stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's like the next thing after that, full on Batman. And by having probably one of the biggest releases you can say of the Batman v Superman movie coming on out, it just seems like there's just a lot to talk about with it.
Yeah.
I've already been having I was fucking right before I got to this podcast. I was at the comic book store. Strange enough, at the comic book store, not where I could get a graphic novel, but where I was getting at fucking Grayson comics and shit. I was having argument with the fucking nerds in there and whatnot about Batman versus Superman.
Those fucking nerds. I went there last time I was
nerds. Everybody fucking hate speech and Superman and shit.
I it's one of those things I went there last time I was visiting, and I don't know if there's some people you talked to, but I talked to the owner and he seemed pretty cool. And
oh no, the owner guy's really cool. It was just some fucking Kurt Cobain looking motherfucker walking around there saying Batman only used guns in one scene. I'm like, you didn't see the fucking movie.
Well, it's one of those things. Let me get this out of the way, because what sometimes annoys me, I mean, I understand when people want to give their critique, they want to kind of keep you interested, and we just want to know, this guy like it or do you not like it? Here's my thing. We'll go into detail in a second. I liked the movie. I just liked it. I wanted to love it, but I just liked it. But regardless,
I feel I'm in that same boat as you. Because that's when I walked out of the movie, it was one of those ones I wanted to really enjoy this movie, and I think it just was ones I don't know. Once again, comes back to the Batman thing. It's just Marvel. Perfect example of Marvel. Marvel's always been except for when I was a kid, I used to like Marvel a lot more then. But Marvel nowadays, the way I look at Marvel, it's I enjoy everything Marvel releases, but I will say this: I almost don't really love it. And the only reason I say that is I just say there's this gap. It's I'll go see a Marvel movie, but I won't maybe buy that movie the first day when it comes out on Blu-ray. Where DC, I will go see a DC movie, love the hell out of it, maybe see it a couple times, and when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'll buy it day one. And even when I look at comics, it's the ones I picked up today, 3 out of 4 of my comics were DC comics. No, take it back. One of them was an independent one. And then I only got one Marvel one, which was just an X-Men comic that I picked up. So it's just I love, I really do enjoy Marvel, but I just don't have that same love that I do for a DC, where DC, it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Flash, all these guys I really like. Whenever there's stuff with them in it, it's I'm there. I want to own it. I want to have the whole collection. I got every single one of the fucking animated films, almost 40 of them by now. That's how much I love DC. So going into this movie, it's almost I know it's setting that bar so high, so much up there that you're no matter what, it's I feel you almost are going to be disappointed because that bar is so high anyways. It's there's no way it's going to achieve it unless that movie just works all sorts of magic. But it was that one where it's I walked out, if I was on the Leonard Maltin scale, I told you this, I was I'd probably give it a 3.25 out of 4. I don't know. 3 seems a little too low, but I felt 3.5 out of 4 almost was a little bit too high. I liked it, but I just almost felt there was maybe something missing.
For me, in all honesty, if we're going Leonard Maltin scale, I just give it a 3. And to me, 3 is still worth owning. Chances are when this movie comes out day one, and people are going to call me oh, you're a DC fanboy, or you're in a DC, whatever, and that's not the case. I like the movie enough to own it. I just thought it was flawed. The thing is, it is people talk about the pacing of the movie. And I never really felt they said there's too much going on. They said things seem random. I heard several different reviews. And I don't think anything felt random. I felt there's too much. Well, actually, first off, before we even get into this movie, spoilers, if you haven't seen this fucking thing. So that's probably what we're going to be talking about this whole podcast right now.
Yeah, it's going to be Batman, and then Superman, and then Jason Momoa.
Gal Gadot. All right. So, I like how we have Batman, Superman, and then we don't even go Aquaman, Wonder Woman. We just go to by that point, just the actors. No. But, so the thing with the movie is, it's 2.5 hours long, maybe a little over, but I want to say it's roughly 2.5 hours. And I never, people say it all seems so random. It all seems out of place. It didn't seem random. Everything.
No, I think story-wise, it flows totally fine that way.
Everything is connected, and it all comes full circle. Everything links to one thing. It's never what's the point of that? It all comes full circle. It's just several of the plot lines that come into the movie don't really need to happen. For instance, near the end, for the blackmail to finally make Superman go and fight Batman. They kind of get to that whole part where Lex Luthor's like, "I got your mom," where at the very and then like what kind of stops him from fighting is like when he's all like, "Dude, our mom's got the same name. Oh, I'm sorry, I got confused for a minute. Fuck. Oh, he has your mom."
This made me laugh when I saw that. Like right in the theater, right when they're like, "Your mom's name's Martha," and they're all like sitting there. Somebody in the audience was like, "They're fucking brothers." And I was like, oh my god, like, because that's all it takes is if your mom's got the same last name, you must be fucking related.
That's
Or the same
awesome.
first name. Yeah, it's just like
Somebody literally yelled that. Were they trying to be funny?
They were all like, they were surprised. Like that was the turning point. That right there was the revelation. Like I maybe they are. Like I don't know. That just feels hard. I mean, like if you watch the whole movie prior, I don't know where any of that ever linked together.
Here's the thing: Martha got shot. She was on life support for a while. Bruce didn't know. She got mixed up with a Jane Doe. Then she's
moved
like,
out, like
she's like, I'm tired of this. She's like, my boy's already moved on. Time for me to get a southern twang and move on down to Kansas. Oh, who's this? So.
Oh, it's Kevin Costner.
Yeah. I'll call you John. Fair enough. Okay. No, but that would be like I'd be if they had the balls. You're like, oh wow, okay. I mean, I wouldn't have done that, but I give you credit for doing that. So basically, then they're just like, bro, our mom's got the same name. Okay, so he's got your mom. Maybe we should team up. Where I think really all you had to do is have them fight each other. That's when what the fuck is that noise? Oh shit, Doomsday. And then the friend of my friend is the friend of my enemy is my friend or whatever. And then he sacrifices himself fighting Doomsday. You're like, oh, maybe he wasn't so bad after all. Yeah,
I mean, he saved our lives and everything, so I guess I gotta repay him somehow. I gotta start a league now.
Yeah, so that's one of those things where I think you really could have just... I think that would have made it, like, that end part run so much more smoother,
Well, I think that, because they're saying that there's gonna be like a half an hour's and the DVD version, Blu-ray one coming out later on, which isn't strange at all for a Zack Snyder film because you look at like Sucker Punch that had like 25 minutes added into it, and then also Watchmen had like a half an hour added into it, just the director's cut, but then you get almost like another like 20 minutes with like the Ultimate Rape Edition. So it's not that far
official name they put it under, yeah.
I know, that's the Ultimate Rape Edition cut. Where the comedian's just like raping people. And you see
25 more minutes of what?
Rape. But so I have a feeling that maybe that will smoothen that out because it does kind of have that feeling of a movie where, oh fuck, we're actually towards the end of the movie. Let's just get this going. Like, let's go. Okay, movie's over. Like it has that sort of almost like I felt like that was the same problem that like Jupiter Ascending sort of had. Is that like it flows really smooth in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got to get this movie over with. We don't have enough time. Which I think in Jupiter Ascending, I think there probably was an extra like half an hour of time that was filmed. That's not allowed to be like put out.
Well, I guess I want to say this real quick. I think the Wachowski siblings are now both the Wachowski sisters. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true. So now so just to clarify when I say this, so I believe whatever they are by now, I think
so they're just sisters. The Wachowski sisters.
I think they're the Wachowski. I think they're both sisters now. Maybe I'm wrong. But
so they're gonna do like Sister Act 3.
Yeah, that takes. From the directors of Matrix, Jupiter Ascending, and Speedway Racer, Sister Act 3.
Was that
most highly anticipated sequel of all time.
We just wanted to do something that would actually sell well for once, and people wouldn't like badmouth us for years.
Whoopi's back! Holy fuck! I haven't seen her since Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot. Shit.
That wasn't that long ago. You make it sound like that was like that was 15 years ago.
I know, it was 2 years. For the public eye, though, that's a long time, it seems. And then, like, or The View. She's in The View, too.
That's other than the fact she's on every day of the week.
I forgot about that. But anyway, what was I going to say? I bet, like, they probably, like, you know what? We could probably put out a director's cut. We don't give a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck. Last 3 movies you made tanked. No one gives a fuck about your director's cut. So I'd like to see that, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, at least not for the moment. I feel like that probably will come out if they can make another really successful movie. But back to Batman vs Superman.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you said like there's apparently a 30-minute cut, and it's apparently be rated R when it comes to Blu-ray and DVD, which, you
And I
know,
don't think it's gonna be like some of those ones like it's gonna be like extreme R or anything like that. It'll probably just have a little bit more violence in it, maybe.
and two, like someone says fuck once, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, probably. I mean, it'll be probably like light R.
I think here's the thing, because the beginning, there's a little bit of action, and then there's a lot of like talking and just kind of building up, and it's fine because truth be told, this is a way better Batman movie than this Superman movie, and I
Really,
like
I see. I'm like the exact opposite. I think the Superman in this movie is done pretty much perfectly. I like everything Superman. It's Batman. I feel is like the weak link character in the movie, which is weird to say, but because mostly Batman's always like, well, this Justice League Dark book might not be the greatest, but Batman's in there. He's gonna save it.
Well, I think here's the thing about that. It's like I think that like I think Ben Affleck is, regardless of, like bat murdering aside, I think that Ben Affleck's probably the best Batman.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
no. I definitely think too. There, I think he's dead on, gets it perfect and whatnot.
when
I
he
mean,
does, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
they do have that weird, yeah. Where I mean, I think that's the thing. Probably the only thing really wrong with Batman or anything else is the fact that he's like killing people. And it is to the point where, like, the first couple times you see it, you're like, okay, I can justify that. That's a dream. And then some other ones, you're like, okay, well, he shot that guy in the leg. Okay, well, Batman shouldn't be using a gun anyways, but then there's that. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, that car exploded. There's no way any of those guys are walking away from that.
Well, that was even I was keeping trying to even justify when they're the car chase scene goes. That's when he first officially kills somebody. When he's driving through the car, because like I heard a review saying like, okay, Batman murders some people in this movie pretty relentlessly. And I'm watching it and like, oh, this is a dream sequence of what could happen. Okay, I'm fine. Kill all
And
the
that makes
fucking
sense, too,
people you
because it's
want.
like, it's supposed to be a nightmare anyways. So Batman's fears are like, not only is he going to have to live in this post-apocalyptic world where these Supermen have taken over, and it's almost like an Injustice storyline / Red Sun, and Batman's just there to stir shit up. And I feel like at that point, when Batman's like, okay, it's like, I will say, like, okay, I could believe that Batman would maybe have to kill if it did get down to, like, pure, like, survivalness. Like, because realistically, I mean, there's no way you could get around being a superhero and not accidentally killing somebody at some point. That's just bound to happen. But, like, let's just take into account that, it's Batman and he can. At that point, farther in the future, if everything was going to shit like that, I could see Batman killing there. So I understood it. And plus, it's a nightmare anyways, because Batman's already scared of killing anyway, so maybe he does dream like, oh, fuck, I'm a murderer in the future? This is horrible.
And that right there is also something that was kind of around the lines of I want to say they were probably pulling a like maybe not an exact scene, but there's that whole story in Grant Morrison's thing of what if they didn't stop Doomsday or Darkseid in time, and he actually in that version in that world, Batman did a bunch of killing, and he said like yeah I had to do horrible things, but if we can go back in time right to this point, I can stop it so none of this ever happened.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff has happened multiple times in the comics where Batman did say, all right, yeah, sure, I was a bad guy because I was under mind control or whatever reason, I killed a fuck ton of people, but if we go back in time, we stop that from happening.
Yeah.
So that right there, I'm like, oh, this is what they're talking about. Okay, whatever. And then I'm watching the car. Then I'm watching. When they get to the Batmobile chase, and I'm watching. I'm just trying to kind of justify certain things. Like he'll like run off the road. It flips over. Like chances are that person's dead. But I'm thinking, like in Arkham Knight, chances are those guys be dead. But just he's so precise or whatever.
Yeah.
They're probably just like injured for life. That's probably all it is. He's probably didn't kill him.
Yeah.
And then later, there's the one guy who pulls out like he's firing him. He knocks him over, spins him like. That guy could be alive. And all of a sudden, he like harpoons it, drags into another car, and explodes. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing too. I was really trying to, even the dream sequence, I was trying to justify too, because it's like the first couple guys, like, okay, he shot him in the leg, he did that, and then all of a sudden, there's a part where he's like, boom, 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 like 4 headshots in a row. And it's like, okay, there's no way I can defend that.
But it's a dream. I'm fine
with
that.
The dream one I'm fine with, but the other stuff, which is it's just so weird because it just felt like, cinema-wise, after Batman and Batman Returns, it seemed like the days of Batman using guns and, like, killing people was kind of, like, over. After Batman straps a bomb to a guy and chucks him over a bridge in front of a church, that mostly was kind of like, that was, like, the end of, like, Batman killing people and just getting away with it. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, they're doing this, it's like, you want, if people are going to complain about the original 89 Batman movie, the things they always go to is like, remember that scene where Batman was firing machine guns off just into like a parade of people, at the Joker and doesn't even hit him? Well, you're pretty much doing that exact same thing in Batman v Superman once again. I mean, obviously it's not like innocent people there, but still, it's funny to go like with one of like the main kind of complaints of a movie, which they might like the rest of it, but there's a couple scenes in there that kind of always bother people. It's like, why would you pull those and try to get away with it? It just seems
As well as after Man of Steel, all the collateral damage. Like, you know what? You crashed a few buildings. I'm gonna fucking kill some people to prove I don't like that.
well, it's almost like they embrace it. They're like, you know what? Fuck you. We will destroy more buildings. So I'm kind of glad though, because maybe Zack Snyder's taking a stand and be like, yo, this fucking has happened in the comic books, animated series, video games, everything. Animated movies. This has happened so many times that I'm not gonna back down just because a couple little bitches like want to complain about Man of Steel and him destroying buildings. So you know what? We're still destroying buildings. Fuck you.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Or that was David Goyer saying that too, probably more than anything else.
They just high five after like writing that in the script. Batman pulls a gun out, shoots 4 guys in the head. High five. Go back to writing. Yeah. No, but there's the part where I'll say where the thing with, I'll be honest, because there's a point where right where that action scene happens where he does actually kill some people, not in the dream, but it actually does kill some folk. That right there, I was so kind of waiting for some action to happen in the movie and not like just let's see Superman and Batman just finally fight each other. I was just waiting for some action to happen by that point. That was like, okay, he killed somebody, but at least something's going on. Because the thing is, there is a bit of a buildup with a little bit of action here and there. And then it gets to the middle. And then for a while, a whole lot doesn't happen. And then you get to like the big climax. And there are reasons for fighting because the movie's called Superman versus Batman versus Superman. Yet they're not really, there isn't this whole like consistent like tension between them. It's literally Batman's doing his thing, Superman's doing his thing. Batman's trying to track down Lex Luthor. There's somebody doing like illegal stuff out of the port of Gotham. He's trying to track it. He knows Lex Luthor's involved. Superman is facing some political like prosecution and shit for all the shit that happened in Metropolis. So then eventually just like, Superman's like, hey, knock that shit off because I hear you're like smacking people and shooting them and branding them with your little bat iron. So don't do that no more.
I don't like. I thought bat branding was cool.
I like that. I like the bat brand. He's been marked. He has the mark of the bat. It's a death sentence in prison. That whole thing. So and then like at the very end, that's where Batman like he's so like I'm no fucking pussy. Starts working out. He finds out what kills Kryptonians, and then he
once again he finds out what kills Kryptonians.
Yeah. He finds out what he does. Like Luthor has a big rock. He steals it from Luthor, and that's another thing. Like maybe this will be in the director's cut. Maybe it would have made the movie a little longer. Maybe they could have trimmed down on some of the political shit because you get there and like Luthor's like, what the fuck happened? He has a bunch of guys beat up. His Krypton rock is missing, and there's a Batarang in the middle. Like, oh, are we going to flash back to what happened? No.
Yeah. Just that's kind of it. Batman was here. I mean, because, yeah, I will say that there is a little bit of a lackluster of action. Like, and I still think it flowed fine enough. Like, strange enough, it's like, the only problems I kind of have with it, it's not like it's necessarily like the story and the way it goes. And then maybe it's just, I think that movie almost would be a much better movie to somebody who only knew of Batman and Superman through the movies, and that's it. Because to me, the only thing is when I'm watching, I feel like it's already stuff I've seen. Because it's almost like a Frankenstein picture of a bunch of different DC stories anyways, that they've already done like a fantastic job in animated form. And yeah, okay, never seen this in live action before, but it's kind of like, it's almost like a mixed match of like, Dark Knight, Red Sun, Injustice. You also got Death of Superman. You even got, and then you got elements of like Flashpoint in there and stuff like that.
A little bit of Trinity.
Mm-hmm. So it is, as well as once like everything. It's like there wasn't like a whole lot of like surprises in there. It's always kind of felt like, okay, seen that before. It once again never seen in live action, so that's kind of cool to still see. And I know it's sort of that kind of movie that's almost like it's setting it up for what's to come next. So you got to get everybody else up to speed. So I know that, taking it in. But that's almost where I feel like it'd probably be a really cool movie if you never saw Dark Knight Returns, if you never saw a lot of these other, if you never saw Death of Superman, if you never like read Death of Superman, you didn't know any of these things. I think that all those kind of parts would be like, oh fuck, Superman dies. Like I think that would be kind of a cool thing to see for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see what you're saying there, but I feel like this movie's almost more made for fans because there's this whole part where, for a second, I thought it was Red Hood, but right after Batman has this dream sequence about the world, about Darkseid coming to the world and basically turning into Apocalypse, and we don't see Darkseid, but we see the Omega symbol and we see parademons come flying in. And then up close, actually, just not the shadowy figures that ride by the screen real quick in the trailer. You actually see one up close, just looks pretty cool. But then we get
Flash.
We get Flash coming in. For a second, I thought it was, but he's in like this weird mechanical suit, and it looks kind of
It looks like Red Hood's suit.
I thought, is that Jason Todd for a second? Then the thing went up, and I saw the red lining. I'm like, it's not Flash. He just looks so weird in the suit. I couldn't entirely tell. Then I'm like, I think that's Ezra Miller. And they're like, yep, that's Ezra Miller. And Ezra Miller's playing the Flash.
I like it's like Bruce. Bruce like, well, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. And he even looked it was hard to pinpoint exactly who it was for a minute, but yeah, that was the Flash coming in saying, "Oh shit, I came too early. You're right, Bruce, you're right up," and then leaves. And that right there, that had a lot of people angry because a lot of people. One of the biggest criticisms this movie does have on critics. Let me say this real quick. I think the movie's flawed, but I think people are being a little too harsh on it because I still found the movie to be enjoyable. And it still gave us stuff we have not seen in live action yet that I'm glad we finally got to see. And plus, Ben Affleck just rocked it as Batman. And killing aside. But I think the whole... I think like people were mad about the Doomsday part or the Apocalypse part and some of the foreshadowing for what's to come. But you know what? I'm okay with that because, I mean, we kind of already seen universe building in other ones. And these characters are all going to get their own movie eventually. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that didn't bother me at all. Like, none of that's... It seems like the things that piss other people off are like the things I'm like, I was totally fine with. More than anything, to me, it's like, I think, kind of, yeah. And the only reason I think that Batman's kind of the weak link, because I thought that everything in the Superman story I liked. I like Superman. You know, Amy Adams, have kind of accepted her as Lois Lane. Is she the perfect Lois Lane? No, but, you know, she does a good enough job. But I like their interaction together. I liked how they had the Daily Planet stuff in there. I did know, I like how they give us they're like, here you go, have fucking Jimmy Olsen. You know all you guys that bitched about how you didn't get Jimmy Olsen and the other one you got Jenny Olsen? And then they fucking kill off Jimmy Olsen, like, right away.
That wasn't Jimmy, that was just some CIA guy.
Jimmy Olsen in the credits.
Really? That was Jimmy?
Yep. Well, that's what I thought, too, because I was watching, I was like, dude, is that fucking Jimmy Olsen? There's Lois Lane right there. That's got to be Jimmy Olsen. Like, why would they not do that? And then all of a sudden he's like, I work for the CIA. Like, don't smash my camera. It's like, well, fuck you then. Boom! And I was like, well, that can't be Jimmy Olsen. Then I looked in the credits, I was like, that was Jimmy Olsen. You give us Jimmy Olsen, and then you execute him in front of us. And then I noticed they took...
Where was his Superman calling watch then?
Yeah. And then I noticed what they did, too, is like, and Jenny Olsen, they ixnayed her last name, so she's not Jenny Olsen anymore. She's just Jenny, India.
Jenny India. Subtle.
Which, I don't know what it was. For some reason, I accepted her character much more than I knew she wasn't an Olsen anymore.
That's my thing. My thing is just, like, don't try to, like... It in no way represents this character, resembles this character, but just taking it for that. And... that's one of those things. I don't have a problem. Like I said earlier, like if it was Jenny Olsen and she happened to be a photographer or whatever, that would have been fine. Happy bumbling, that'd be fine. But I didn't even tell that was her. But they give us Jimmy Olsen just to kill him, just like, oh, well, shit's at stake,
Yeah, just like I thought that was kind of that was about the one thing I was like, because I didn't when I was watching the movie, I didn't think I was like, hey, that's not Jimmy Olsen. Why would they do that? This guy looks like they're just trying to scare us.
And then later bow tie, even under that bulletproof vest, I wonder.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he survives. Maybe he comes back and he's just got like this fucking bullet hole going through like the side of his head, like the guy in fucking World's Not Enough or something. I don't know.
It's like no one calls me Jimmy anymore.
I can't feel any pain.
I'm the only photographer you got with the balls for this job, Barry. I got shot for the planet, not just the Daily Planet. The real planet. Our planet. It's like, all right. You can go back to Afghanistan. Okay.
So it's like, I mean, that's kind of fun, but like, it's weird. It's like, and I notice a lot of people are all like, they're down, like, they go like, well, I like Batman and I liked Wonder Woman, but Superman was all fucked up. And I was to me, I'm like the exact opposite way. I'm like, Superman, all his stuff was great. And I thought they did a great job on everything Superman. And I liked how it actually stayed more of a Superman movie, because I thought Superman was literally getting shoehorned out of his own movie. I thought it was going to be like Batman, 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 and then like a little bit of Superman here and there, and then back to Batman again. And then, but for the most part, it's almost like you're watching a Superman movie that has Batman come into it, and same with Wonder Woman, they just kind of come into it, but they don't like override the movie, I feel.
I feel like, I mean, I'm not trying to say it's just to be the controversial one, but I didn't really think that he did. I mean, I don't really think Henry Cavill's a bad Superman or anything. I thought he did. I liked him in Man of Steel, but in this one, I don't know. He seemed a little bit more kind of stiff, because the thing about this one, Superman wasn't really doing. We didn't see him do a whole lot of saving. There's like a montage of him saving, which is all the stuff we saw in the trailer, and then he said once he gets that part. I like the whole political thing. I like that how he is on he's basically to a certain extent on trial, or has to defend himself, and how the senator, even though I didn't really like the senator character that much,
Holly Hunter one,
which I kind of got what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically make her kind of like she's not a bad person, but she disagrees with him. I thought they were just going to make her another corrupt politician, but she wasn't. She just disagreed with him. It was like, okay, I kind of see why she's here. But then once Lex Luthor sends the one like legless guy in there to go against Superman, and then has him blow up, this is kind of that part where they kind of don't really show Superman having a lot of sympathy or empathy for people, because once that happens, once the thing blows up, you see him standing there. I know they're trying to make him sell him like, oh no, just stare. But he looked more like, fuck, they're going to blame this on me. He looked more like, he's just sitting there like he closed his eyes. Not even like, I think Superman the comic would be like, no, like he'd fall to his knees. He'd be like sad. He'd be a little bit more like rough. Where he just sitting there, he just kind of closed his eyes, more like irritation, like, fuck.
Dad, I'm just trying to do the right thing. He's like, son, I told you they'd fuck you over.
Yeah,
fucking knew it.
Like, yeah. Then, like, basically, when he kind of goes off, he's all like, I gotta rethink it. I don't think the world wants Superman. Just like, well, I mean, more people just died. That's more of a cute calling card to say, wow, I gotta fix some shit. He's like, even though I have been saving people, you didn't see me save people, so I'm just gonna go wander in the Antarctica for a little while. Oh, hey, Ghost Dad.
Oh, yeah, it's like, I don't think he goes to Antarctica. I think he goes up north to like, because it seemed like he was building his Fortress of Solitude without really getting to that part yet.
Yeah, well, I thought the Fortress of Solitude was just basically the ship he parked somewhere.
That's what I was assuming. I was assuming that's what it kind of was getting to, and then it never really got back to it. So I'm like, well, now it's just it's like he laid the foundation, and he'll get around to setting up his house later.
Yeah, it's there. It's locked. I got the
Which I thought that was kind of cool, because they had a Kevin Costner scene there. Because I kind of wanted, I'm like, will Russell Crowe or Kevin Costner have like some kind of like flashback cameo? I mean, you got Marlon Brando in Superman 2, so it's not like it's entirely not possible. So, and then it was kind of cool. It's like, oh, he did have a sequence where he's like climbs to the top of the mountain, and whether or not you like grunge rock like Superman, I like grunge rock Superman.
So do
I.
Yeah.
I just think it was cool that they had that Kevin Costner scene right there where you got to have this little kind of speech, almost like, I don't know if he was just like, that was a long fucking hike. I'm kind of like, daydreaming a bit here or whatever. But it's like he had this moment with his dad just kind of going, okay, I know what to do. And that was just neat to have Kevin Costner come back.
I just kind of like how he says, like, my dad wanted me to do good. And then he like, wait, but then you think back at the speech from the first one. Fuck him.
Well, Dad, should I just let him die? Yeah, maybe. Fuck it. That's it just makes me like, yeah, you probably should have let him fucking die. They're just kids. Which
that Johnson boy was on the bus and he fucked up our mailbox 2 weeks ago. You should have let them all fucking die.
Yeah, that fat red. Remember that time that he came over and ate all the pie your mom made? Literally, it was like a fucking cartoon. She set it out on the windowsill for it to like cool up, and he was up there fucking macking down on it.
That Pete Ross kid, he's probably going to be like managing IHOP one day. Nothing's going to come of him.
I'm waiting for the day, though, when they finally have a Superman movie where they don't have to have Pa Kent die, though. I know this kind of goes back to like almost Man of Steel, but because to me, like, I always feel that like Superman, like what makes that character become who he is he doesn't have that tragedy that like a Dick Grayson or a Bruce Wayne has, or even like a Barry. the whole point of Superman feels like he actually comes from actually like the perfect life, and not like the perfect life like I had everything I needed, but no, he just came from like the most loving parents you could possibly have that told him to do the right thing, you know, be grateful for little things and all this stuff. And I kind of like that because that's how it always is in like the animated stuff or how it is in like the comics and everything. And what makes that kind of nice is that that almost creates him being the you could say the blue Boy Scout, which always comes off as kind of like a negative thing, but I don't think that's really a negative thing. I kind of like that his view of the world is that, hey, though there's a lot of good here and stuff, where Batman's is always like, no, there's some guy around the corner that's just going to like shoot your parents, and then take the boy and beat him to death in front of a building and blow it up, or, something is going to happen, or, that girl that you don't really want to hire as your Robin, but you kind of still work with her. Well, someday somebody's going to bust into her apartment and shoot her and make her paralyzed. There's just bad stuff that happens. You just got to get used to it, Clark.
Trust me. We're like, I think one of the best moments in anything Superman is like the Christmas episode of Justice League, where even though he's a full-grown guy, it kind of shows just kind of like how optimistic and kind of naive he is in some ways, where he invites John over for Christmas. And he's talking to his parents, like, well, that's when Santa Claus would come, right? And bring presents. And then, like, I like even his parents. They can't say because it's technically a kid show, but the parents are like, right, Clark, Santa.
No, I remember that. That's hilarious.
And it's like they don't, I mean, I guess it's one of those things like Man of Steel, I was a little bit more understanding because he was still trying to learn things out. And he had a couple of these moments where you saw him really helping people and trying to do good. Like, it's one of those moments you feel so bad for him, but at the same time you're kind of happy for him because he gets revenge on the guy pretty immediately. When he's like, he has all these powers, he's like the strongest thing in the universe, yet there's some asshole hassling this coworker of his. He's like, "Hey man, leave her alone." Then he like pours beer on him, slaps around. Yeah.
Get down there and suck my dick while I eat my breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. But he just kind of like has this like look of just like, man, I know I can do so much more in this, and he leaves, and you feel so bad for him in that scene. But you see he like twisted the guy's like truck around like a tree or something,
and
so
it like on
it's like
poles and everything.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, yeah. So he has a little bit of attitude. He still has his heart's in the right place, and he looks a little lost and confused, but I think that works. He's trying to figure shit out. Where this one, even though I don't think people have been like really dogged on him or Cavill, I don't think he did a bad job. I think they just could have given him more to do because they didn't really show him saving a lot of people. In the few moments where he was, they gave him an opportunity to be like, hey, and be kind of like smiley and optimistic. He was more of just kind of like, they're gonna blame this shit on me, aren't they? The whole fucking building blew up.
Just try to do what's right, god damn it.
Yeah, so
well, I think it's because like the thing is, it's like it's sort of that thing where a lot of people want to get away from the classic style Superman, where it's just like he's always just saving the day, and it's almost like because it doesn't seem like it's a problem or anything like that, and he's just Mr. Goody Two Shoes. Where in this one, I think they're kind of trying to like they're going with that Superman where it's just like, no matter how hard you try, shit is just gonna happen, and you're just always gonna be blamed. It's like that's just life. Like it kind of has like that thing where it's like just.
That's what I try to tell you about, Clark. That's what my dad told me.
And it goes back to kind of like I feel like you don't have that Clark nearly as much. I think maybe if his parents like survive, and I mean it works well. I think in the original like '70s Superman movie because I like the way that they go about it. Even though it's like Pa Kent dies, I like the concept that they do with it, where it's just like you have all these powers and all these abilities, but you couldn't save him from a heart attack. Like that was something you couldn't do. And I think that made a little bit more sense than the way he dies in like Man of Steel. Because Man of Steel, I still always watch it. I'm like, in my mind, this is how I kind of say it. I'm like, well, maybe he's at this point he's not fast enough that he can just go like really quickly. Maybe it would just be like he ran like faster than a regular, almost like that part in like the original Superman where he's running next to the train. Maybe it's like he's that fast at the moment, so he's not super fast yet. He's just like partially fast. So everybody would have been like, dude, that guy just run over there at 50 miles per hour and grab his dad and come back. Like that was fucking weird. So like, I guess that's the only way you can kind of look at it. But that one's not like. Well, yeah, Superman could have saved his dad there, even though I know it kind of ties into the story. It's like the whole point is like, my dad wanted me to let him die, to protect me, like that kind of ordeal. But I do like the if he is going to die, like he dies from something that there's no way that Superman can save it.
What if it was just, what if like, he actually did get a moment to talk to his like real dad's ghost? This is like, Pa, so you wanted me to let you die, for example. Like, no, I just thought you were a shittest son. and I wanted to. I knew I couldn't kill.
I was just trying to test you.
I knew you couldn't. I knew I couldn't kill you because you're like the Man of Steel, and whatever. So I just figured, well, this is the next best thing. So yeah, go ahead. Fuck y'all, I'm out. I actually screamed out, but you couldn't hear me, even with your superhero, because of the tornado coming down and shit.
But no, for me though, I liked all the Henry Cavill stuff in the movie. I liked the Lois Lane. I liked the Daily Planet.
I like the Perry White and Lois Lane bit.
That was great. And I think Larry Fishburne was doing fantastic. I was glad a lot of those guys actually got a lot of screen time because I thought they were going to be kind of minused out in this movie. I literally thought this movie was going to end up being, hey, here's a lot of Batman, here's a little bit of Superman, and if we show Superman, it's just going to be like Lois and Superman. We're like, I almost thought that like they were going to have like maybe 1 or 2 scenes at the Daily Planet, and that was it. So I was kind of glad to see that there was actually a lot more of that going on.
And Perry had a pretty good. I liked like some of the small things he said, like how they kind of get across this Perry White, like he doesn't really have he's kind of jaded by the industry now. Like he's a good guy and he worries about people, but what he's most worried about is just selling papers. So even if he does have to take a bullshit story and sell a bullshit story, because old Perry White's no, we got journalistic integrity, but this Perry White's more like, no, I care about people. That's why we got to do whatever we can to keep this thing fucking floating. And I like that about him. Even like
I care about people, but I also care about my goddamn job.
Yeah, and there's a part where I thought was actually pretty like, just a quick little one-liner that was pretty funny, where like Clark comes in saying, "Hey, there's a big thing going on in Gotham right now. Maybe we should jump on that." Then he says like, "Gotham crime wave." Right next to the story, water. It's still wet.
No, I liked him. He was real fun in there. A lot of comedy. Mm-hmm. Even though I will say, somebody who had a lot of comedy and was totally fantastic, probably almost even the best character of the entire movie, though, was Alfred.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like that was almost the best. Like, and I like almost all the Alfreds in every live-action movie. They're always good. That's almost like the golden thing, is Alfred's always been perfect. But this one, to me, I felt like it was the closest to like the comic book Alfred without, if he just needed the mustache, and that was about all he was missing.
Mm-hmm. No, this was definitely the best. Jeremy Irons was the best Alfred. Even kind of like how he was so much more dry and so much more blunt than Bruce Wayne. Like, yes, I'll prepare the Batmobile, but you're gonna get some sass from me, And like even the part where he's kind of giving him, because he was even helping him with the operation. Because even the Michael Caine Alfred, like he helped him out with some stuff, but he's more helping him press his suit or organize his stuff. You know what I mean? He wasn't really over the phone with him, giving him stuff. Where this Alfred is just like, okay, I got the bat plane on like manual mode or drone mode, or he's giving him instructions of how to get around and where to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then like not only that, like there's scenes where he's sitting there, he's working on the bat armor and stuff, and he's working on the car. Like I just liked, it was almost like he was always doing something, but he wasn't really doing your regular butler things.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bit of it too, because he'd bring him by, like he's sitting there working on the bat armor and stuff, and then Bruce Wayne shows back up, and then he starts making him tea and everything, and brings it over. So you still have all that in there, but I felt like, and then once again, like Michael Caine, fantastic, and the guy I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but from the first 4 Batman movies.
Oh, the guy from the first 4. You mean the original guy? Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, like that guy. Once again, another fantastic Alfred. But man, did this one just feel like it was just dead on. I mean, all he needed, if he had just a little mustache there, he would have been like 100%. And I'm not really complaining, because I'm like, he doesn't have to have that, but I
think they're afraid to cut the mustache because of the original guy.
I think so.
The original guy set such a tone.
Well, yes, it's that weird. It's almost like the whole thing of like how Michelle Pfeiffer sort of set the tone where Catwoman was blonde for a while, just because it would have thrown people off.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like at some point somebody's gonna finally just whip up like Alfred up there and put him like the exact way he looks in the show or the comic or whatever you want to say, But
I will say that like I thought that was just awesome. Just like some of the little small things you'd have, as he's kind of like giving him all his instructions, and he's kind of giving Bruce like all these like help walk him through everything. He just has a glass of whiskey, just drinking, kind of like, this fucking job, like he does not want to be there. And I liked how bitter he was towards Bruce. Like he loved Bruce and he cared about Bruce, but he more so than Michael Caine. He was just like, dude, why the fuck are you still doing this?
Okay, I use that thing where it's like, oh, he'll get over this in like a year, 20 years later.
Yeah.
But no, I thought he was just like he was just dead on. And probably the best part of the entire film, if anything. And then, surprisingly enough, the other person who was way better than expected was Jesse Eisenberg. Like I don't know, like because that was the oddball. That was the one that every single time you see the trailer, you're like, I don't know. I know he'll probably act 110%. It'll be like a Michael Cera and Scott Pilgrim. You know, it's like he acts 110% in that movie. But when you watch it, it's like the only weak link of that movie. You're just like, that's just not the way that you see Scott in the comic books. Where Jesse Eisenberg, okay, it's not like our modern Lex Luthor, where he's like the pinnacle of man as far as like not only physical but mental. He almost felt like he was old school Lex Luthor, where he was just like almost like an evil scientist, but just done today. So he was almost this kind of like hip, like tech kind of. He was playing almost like the part he played in like Social Network, just happened to be more evil. But sure enough, that was the character that was like, he was making funny jokes. Like the only jokes that were kind of dumb were the ones that they used in the trailer. Strangely enough, like all his other jokes that weren't in the trailer, they were all really good. And like he was kind of witty and like almost like charming yet evil at the same time. Like I was actually way more impressed of him than I thought I was going to be.
Here's the thing. A lot of people, I notice people when it comes to Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, they're kind of splits. I'm not going to say like I'm a huge fan of him, but he didn't really kill the mood for me to tear it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing what they're doing with this Lex Luthor, he's really smart, he's really intelligent. That's redundant. He's smart and intelligent. I got the smarts going on today. No. What I was gonna say is they get across that he is a pretty witty guy, but he has an inferiority complex. He feels like he should be high. He knows he's weak. He's physically weak, and he feels like he should be stronger. And you can see he's mentally, even though he may be like a couple steps ahead of everybody when it comes to planning out stuff. When it comes to just social stuff, he's awkward. He has these weird little social tics and kind of stutters when around a lot of people. And that's not really Lex Luthor to me. To me, Lex Luthor is this guy like, I am smarter than all of you here, and I can prove that just by a simple conversation and make you feel like a fucking idiot. Where this one, it's just like, oh no, he's good when it comes to planning the shit, but when it comes to...
He doesn't have social skills.
Yeah, he has no social skills, and he just kind of like stumbles his way through that, kind of like how I am now. But it's one of those...
Dude, you got a future, Lex Luthor.
Yeah, hey, if that fuck from the Social Network can do it, maybe I can do it too. No. But I think it's one of those things where it didn't really kill it for me. I just think it's one of those things where it's not really my Lex Luthor, but there are moments where I found it was pretty entertaining. It's the part where the part that I thought that he was way too overboard is when he's in the jail cell at the end, and he says like, "The demons found it. They heard the dinner bell, and they're hungry. Ding, ding, ding."
Oh yeah, where they're trying to make him almost like, it sounds weird. They're almost making him try to be like a Batman villain. Yeah. I notice that always kind of happens a lot, where like Joker sort of bleeds into other characters that it doesn't happen in the comic books, but for some reason it happens whenever things go live action. It's almost like Jim Carrey as the Riddler, sometimes in Batman Forever. It's like it bled in. Even Two-Face too. It's just like for some reason everybody feels like they got to be partially Joker. Like that's part of a Batman movie, right? You just got to be crazy.
And I actually think that he probably, this is something you've been hearing a lot on the internet probably, I think he would have been a perfect Riddler.
Oh yeah, no, I do agree that like that's almost what he looks like more than anything else is Riddler. But strange enough, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't think that's the most perfect one. I still think that if they would have picked something like Bryan Cranston, that would have been like...
I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson...
Or The Rock. I actually think The Rock's even better than Bryan Cranston. Like, but those are kind of examples of like, that would be amazing. That would be the perfect one, But I do think that Jesse Eisenberg... Okay, go ahead.
One I think would have made a lot of fans happy. Get Clancy Brown, get him to shave his head, and just have him play Lex Luthor. I mean, he's not maybe... I mean, he doesn't look like he's in bad shape, but he looks like he's in decent enough shape. and so many people know
Just
that.
have him do the same thing Henry Cavill's doing. Just have him work out with that, and they'll be all perfect.
Just have him like, I mean, he was in. I just saw him. He was in. I'm watching Daredevil on Netflix right now, and there's a part where he comes in. He played Frank Castle's like superior officer back in the war, and back in I think yeah back,
Huh.
and he comes in saying like, oh yeah, I served with Frank Castle, and he's a great guy, and I was like, oh wow, I just imagine him shaved head and like out of the military uniform, like, oh wow, he'd be perfect for Lex Luthor, really. So depending on which version you're going with, but I think regardless, some people will hear that voice, they see white dude, bald head, like, oh my god, Lex Luthor. Even though I think that Dwayne Johnson would have been perfect for Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I think that's actually like the perfect choice. Well, that's I will say like in a sense about the only kind of complaints I guess you can say to sort of like almost like where DC's at right. You can almost say the Zack Snyder universe is once again we're getting closer. It's like if you take it from like just movie world, if you go, okay, you got Batman 66, and what that is it's taking the comic books but making it kind of fun. Then you go next to like the Tim Burton world where it's like, okay, it's got sort of the darkness to it, but it's somebody else's interpretation of how they think that Batman should be. And then it kind of goes into Joel Schumacher where it kind of stretches back to the 66 going, hey, remember this time period, but let's do that 90s style. And then finally we get to the, like the Dark Knight world where, okay, we got the seriousness down at Batman, but we've gotten too serious where we've gotten grounded in reality, so we feel like we've lost a little bit of like what makes Batman like a fantastic comic. And now it feels like we're back into being like, okay, we got the mix of the seriousness, and we got the comic bookness and the fantasy and a little bit over the top with sci-fi. But there's still that one step away of just like, let's just do the comic book 100%. Let's not do an interpretation. Let's do it like the way that God intended, like that kind of style. Like that's what I mean. Like that's
what Bill Finger would want.
Well, it's almost like we've said this 1,000 times, but the DCU animated movies, they got it down perfect. They do everything right, just about. So all you really have to do is do exactly really just get those guys and have them just make it in live action. And I think that's the only thing that's really missing from pretty much the DC stuff to go to that next level where it's like it's all the way there. Because once again, not saying this is bad, but every little character kind of has like they try to make it their own thing. It's like you got the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor, which he does a fantastic job for what it is, but it's not the Lex Luthor that we kind of know. We got Batman in this one. But now he's kind of killing because the way I feel like they almost put like a mix of Thomas Wayne Batman into him because one, he's killing and he's using guns, and two, he's an alcoholic, which that's not really what Batman is.
He's not really
because there's that scene that Alfred's like, I kind of thought we'd have some wine in the cellar for the next generation of Waynes, but I guess not.
That's another good one. I think they're doing more than Thomas Wayne. I think they're doing Dark Knight Returns. Because this movie definitely takes a lot from Dark Knight Returns, literally shots from Dark Knight Returns.
Well, obviously that's like the big one. But I think that the Thomas Wayne-ness comes more in there with the killing and the alcohol and things like that.
But he was drinking pretty hard early on in Dark Knight Returns. He was sitting there with Jim Gordon, knocking back a few, and kind of sitting there at TV with a glass of brandy, watching the news. When the monologue, like, "You're not done with me, you're never done with me," comes in.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of different because it's almost like he was sort of like retired.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really the same. I don't think. I mean, I know obviously, yeah, this movie's definitely using a lot of Dark Knight Returns, which maybe that's kind of good because finally they can kind of get that out of their system. Because I think the people like me and you are like, well, we saw the best Dark Knight Returns movie there ever will be, which was animated, but still, like, I don't know, people are always so judgy against like animation, but
I think it's just because you could see that. I mean, it's not hard to imagine that animated, to see it in live action. Like, it's one of those things, like, as I'm watching this movie, because you could see Zack Snyder loves Dark Knight Returns. And I could see, even though it was still kind of like half and half Batman, half Superman, you could see that most of the stuff he was pulling from was mainly Batman stories. And even like the part where I thought they did it first off when they finally come to the big battle at the end, or like I guess probably the beginning of the third act, I guess is what that would be. When they come to that big battle, there are literally shots like him socking him in the face, Superman going down, shots straight out of the book. Other shots of him like catching, like he has a kind of a grenade launcher with like kryptonite dust in it, catching it, the thing explodes in his face rather than being an arrow shot by Green Arrow. So there are things he's getting, even like the whole like stomping or drop kicking him in the jaw while he falls back into the camera. So many shots like that, even to the point where I saw the movie with my friends TJ and Maya, And when I went to go see with them, TJ, he likes Batman, but he's more of like he knows Batman more of a couple of the animated movies and the Arkham games.
Hmm.
And then we're watching this, and when the explosion goes, when he gets nailed by a nuke up in the sky, I lean to him. Bet he's gonna turn into a shriveled like raisin person. Just watch this. He's like,
I
what?
thought that was pretty sweet.
And then sure enough, they show him. He is shriveled up and raisiny, like he
Looks all
was.
Ronald Reagan like.
Yeah, like in Dark Knight Returns. And then he's like, "How the fuck did you know? Why'd I even ask you this? Of course you knew that was going to happen. You read all these fucking books."
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. See, I think a person like that guy TJ, he seems like the most ideal candidate for this movie. That would be like mind blown when they watch it.
He wasn't, unfortunately. I mean, here's the thing about the movie.
That picky motherfucker.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude. I want to give him the podcast at some point, but
Not anymore.
not now.
He blew that chance. Now I was giving him props and everything, and then all of a sudden he had to ruin it.
Here's the thing about the movie. I don't really know entirely who the movie's made for, because you and me, we both liked it, but we both have problems with it, obviously. TJ, who he's not really a huge comic book fan, but he likes like Arrow and Flash and TV shows and the video games. He wasn't big on it, but he loved certain things. He loved certain things about it. Where his girlfriend, Maya, who is with us, I'm just saying this, she doesn't keep up with any of this shit, but she liked it. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like, it's weird. I know people who do not like this shit at all, but liked this movie, and yet people who somewhat like it don't like it, and then there's us who know it really well but like it but have problems. So it's kind of like it's hard to defend to say who this movie's really aimed at.
Well, I think that because it's got kind of like a mixed thing in it, where it's got like, it does have tons of sweet nods. Like, I mean, I liked even lines too. Like, I like how Alfred even goes, "Maybe it was a phantasm." Like, small stuff like that just puts a smile on your face if you're like, oh, I see where that's coming from. I mean, obviously there's no phantasm in the movie, but that's kind of cool. Or I liked when Bruce was like investigating Superman. There was a picture on his wall, and it was the original cover of Action Comics where he's lifting up the car and everything. I'm like, I thought that was cool. Like, so there's a lot of like deep cut nods in this movie for sure. And they did really just Frankenstein a bunch of different stories and put it together, which sounds like a fantastic idea. It's like it has all this stuff going for it, but then I think what almost kind of gets in the way sometimes is instead of sometimes going full, comic book, just doing it 100%, it's just when you start getting like the mixed interpretations in there. Because in a sense, like, I kind of like, hopefully this is kind of like the last movie where people like are Dark Knight Returns influence. And don't get me wrong, that's one of the best books out there, one of the best stories. But it seems like that's everybody. Tim Burton, what was the only Batman book he read? Dark Knight Returns. Later on, Christopher Nolan, what was like one of the big influence books for them? Dark Knight Returns. Zack Snyder, what was one of his big books? Dark Knight Returns. It always seems like, it's almost to the point where it seems like Dark Knight Returns, even though it's such a great book, there's a lot of people out there, it's like, that's almost like the only Batman book they really read. Now, this one has more stuff in it than just that, but I hopefully hope that this finally got it out of people's systems where we can kind of go, let's just kind of go past Dark Knight Returns. Because don't be wrong, I love that storyline, but that's almost sort of like I still feel like it is in the regular Batman universe, but it also is sort of like a somewhat alternate version of Batman. It's not like your run-of-the-mill regular series Batman.
I'm sure if I looked long enough, I could probably pinpoint other main storylines. I mean, you said Red Sun. I think
because really, like that flashback scene, even though like you can kind of go back and forth, because I'd say Red Sun first and foremost, but Injustice kind of uses the Red Sun story too, where they got like the Superman army and everything like that.
And Doomsday,
where like Lois died in that, so it's like, oh well, that's totally Injustice, where Superman flips out the second that happens.
Doomsday, so there's some, so there's some of that, or Death of Superman, some of that kind of stuff that's there. But as far as Batman stories, I feel like I could probably look at a Christopher Nolan movie, and I'm not trying to like compare so much, but I feel like I can pick out a Christopher Nolan movie and see more Batman influences in that than just Dark Knight Returns. That's there.
Well, because
you could
the Christopher Nolan one, it kind of has like a bit of
Year One, Long Halloween, Dark Victory a little bit.
What's the one with the
Nightfall,
where the Gotham City gets destroyed? I'm drawing a blank.
No Man's Land.
Yeah, No Man's Land. There's definitely more stuff in there. I'm not saying that's not the only one, but it always seems like
Year One
when it comes up.
Dark Knight Returns always comes up.
Yeah, it just always seems Dark Knight Returns is always like the main influence. Is what I'm saying. Like there's other stuff in there, of course, and I just kind of would like let's just kind of like get that out of your system. I don't get me wrong. Once again, one of the best books ever. If I was going to recommend a book to somebody, I would be like my top 3 that I'd give it to them. I'd probably give them that, Long Halloween, and maybe like Hush.
Hush.
I'd probably say those are like the three main Batman books. It's like if you don't like the at least 2 out of 3 of these books, you just probably don't like Batman. Like that's kind of like how good those ones are. So I'm not saying anything against it, but it is that one. It's just I feel like it's always the go-to story to use elements from Dark Knight Returns. Let's just throw some scenes in there from Dark Knight Returns. And they even had a part 2 where like even though it's cool, it works, but I felt like once again I've seen it. But when Bruce goes to save Martha, or Superman's like mom, just to clarify for those people out there. They even have the part where like he busts in the room and there's a guy that I almost kind of went like, is that guy gonna be Firefly? I know he has a flamethrower, and I know that just because there's a guy with a flamethrower does not mean that they're Firefly. But if it's a Batman movie, I just assume that I'm putting two.
Like that guy, because he was there a couple, could have just been Firefly or some miscellaneous villain.
But still, he goes to do it, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking burn her. And he's like, I believe you. And then like he shoots the gun and it hits like his tank, and he flies out the window and blows up. And so it's like, okay, there's a straight scene from Dark Knight Returns, except for with an explosion in it. And like, if that was the only kill Batman had, I would be totally fine with it. I think it's the other ones that like, why does Batman have machine guns on his plane? Why does he have machine guns on his car? Why does he have Gatling guns to shoot Superman? Like, but I'll say this though, I've talked to other people. Like I was talking to Josh, and he said that like he loved all that stuff. Now this comes from somebody who's like a big Punisher fan and things like that, who isn't like a Batman purist. So those kind of people I think are totally fine. They're like, yeah, I actually always pictured Batman killing people. It's just for some reason he never does in the movies and comics and so on.
I'm kind of I heard that before I saw this movie. I listened to one review, and they seemed kind of lukewarm about the movie, and the whole thing with him killing, I was kind of prepared for that going in. So when it finally happened, when I finally saw it happen, it wasn't as big of a deal to me. And I understand they're trying to go with the darker version of Batman. And it's one of those things, it doesn't bother me as much as I thought it did. I thought it would be like a big like thorn in my side for the movie. It wasn't. I could have done without it, but you know, I just come to accept, all right, this is just a different interpretation of him. My biggest thing is I really just think they could have trimmed down on some of this B story stuff. They could have tightened some of that like political stuff between Superman and the senator that blows up. They probably could have tightened down or some of like Lex Luthor's plan, and they probably could have. I mean, small things like, as I said earlier, I don't think they kind of needed to build up the whole thing with Superman's mother getting kidnapped, because they would have got there even if she wasn't kidnapped, because Lois Lane had this whole story trying to reveal Lex Luthor. So did Batman trying to reveal Lex Luthor. And then like all Batman had to do was just show his light up in the sky and just say, come at me, bro, or whatever, you know? And that's where Superman's like, well, I don't want to look like a pussy, so I got to go out there and fight him. And that's where he goes out there and fights him. And then, so we don't have to have this whole thing of like, no, I just want to talk for a second. Fuck you, punch. No, Martha. Martha? What? Oh, fuck, we got my mom's both the same last name. Cool. Oh, we're friends now.
Because I think that was definitely the part where it's like, that came way, almost like too fast of them like turning friends. Because there's even part 2 when like Bruce goes to rescue like his mom. And he's like, who are you? I'm a friend of Clark's. And she's like, I figured. It's just like, oh, fuck, you were gonna impale him only 10 minutes ago with a fucking spear.
Thing about that,
you're gonna leave his body probably on top of a building, fucking like Vlad Tempe's, like just like impaled there, like and shine the bat light up and going like, fuck you, fuck this alien, fuck space.
Like it's one of those things where when that happened, here's my. I'm not saying it was written well for that part. But here's my logic. Here's, I think, the logic behind it. It wasn't the thing like, oh, his mom has the same first name as my mom. Let's be friends. I think it came across that way. Yeah. I think it was literally like, how the fuck do you know my mom's name? How the fuck do you know her name? No, that's his mother's name. She needs to be saved. Like, okay, well, we'll put this aside because I'm going to save anybody's mom. So that's what I'm going to go do. You go solve this shit. I'll go solve that shit. I think that's what it was.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It almost kind of flipped too quickly, where people sounded like they took it as like, oh no, you the same. I mean, mom's got the same first name, so now we're friends. Where I don't think that's the case. I just think it looked that way. It could have been written better. I really think they could have got there, because Doomsday would have just jumped in. He says, "Well, I need his help to take down Doomsday," and then from there, once he sees Superman sacrifice himself to stop Doomsday, he's like, "Oh well, clearly." he wasn't that bad if he died doing that, you know.
Well, I'll say this. I hate to be the guy who goes like, now if the movie was done this way, but I think this movie could have almost worked. And
Even
this
though I
sounds
just
like a
did that.
weird fucking way to say it, but like, okay, you know, like how Bad Boys 2 is, how that movie you think is gonna fucking end.
Go on.
Well, you know that movie has like a total place where like, oh, that's the fucking end of the movie, and then all of a sudden there's like another half an hour story going on. I almost
Oh
think
yeah.
that this movie would have done better if like the end of the second act would have been Batman and Superman fighting, and then all of a sudden they resolve all that stuff, and then we move in to the Doomsday storyline as like your finale instead of making it all tied in to the end of the third act no matter what, because it was all like that was also kind of threw me off is like they jammed it all together at the very end where it's just like they're gonna fight, then there's gonna be Lex Luthor thrown in there like, you know, creating this monster, and they have to fight Doomsday, and Wonder Woman has to jump into the same. It was like all like congested at the very end, which I felt like that could have been kind of spanned out a little bit more. Like Batman vs Superman should have been dead center of the movie almost like that.
I agree with you there. I think the movie
The Bad Boys 2, like the fucking Bad Boys 2 style, of where like you think the movie's almost over, and then you have another storyline that comes in right afterwards. Where that one you knew Doomsday was coming up. Like that's I think kind of like, I mean obviously in the trailer you did, but let's just say like just including the trailer, like almost if the Doomsday thing was like, oh fuck, like there is this other thing coming up, not like this other thing's just waiting for you guys to stop fighting.
Yeah, I almost think what could have happened was, well, I guess because they call the movie Batman vs Superman, even though it doesn't happen until the end. I assumed what would happen was because basically they're both doing their own thing, and the whole time Batman's like, "Fuck that guy,"
And then the same time Clark Kent's
Yeah,
like, who the fuck does this guy think he is?
"Fuck you too," you know, and they just have that attitude towards each other, and they're doing their own thing. And then once Batman gets
It
his
sounds
hands,
like that scene too where like Superman like rips Batman out of his car like early on. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? He's like, what the fuck you ripped me out of my goddamn car?
well, he's driving back. I know that he wasn't, but they showed like there's probably about a 2 minute shot where he's driving back. And you just see the car just going. At some point, as he's going down the tunnel to the Batcave, it kind of clips the side, just keeps driving. I just imagine him like motherfucking cocksucker driving the thing.
Just like
down,
in the car, just like fuck shit.
yeah, gets out, starts kicking shit. Alfred, Alfred, alcohol, no, fuck, you know, like walking around,
Breaking shit in the Batcave and everything.
like flipping shit
And
over.
Alfred's just sitting there like, oh, here we go again.
It's like that part, like in like Deadpool, right after like when like Vanessa gets kidnapped and he comes home, it's like fucking shit, knocking stuff over. The phone's ringing. Find that. Where is it? Find that. Just fucking. I almost imagine that for like Batman on the way home.
Well, because it just seems like, because the way that Superman kind of pulls him out, it just seems like such like a dick thing. Like, yo, I'm here now, so you could stop your little like, I'm a little, you know, bitch fighting out in the streets of no superpowers thing. Let the real men fucking handle it. Now drive home and think about that, and don't come back.
You know the part says, "Answer me. Do you bleed?" And he flies away. Then he just says,
He's like, I was fucking talking to you.
"No." What if he just goes like, "You will," with the superhero? He's like, "The fuck was that?" Like, "Oh shit!" Like backs away. I didn't know you could hear that. Fuck! I should have waited until I got my kryptonite rock before I said that shit. Because there's even a part
What'd
like
you say about Kryptonite Rock? Oh, damn it! I should stop talking out loud.
at the point where my internal monologue is coming out external.
Now, I will say probably like the coolest surprise in this movie to me more than anything else was when they showed Cyborg.
I wasn't expecting Cyborg. I was expecting Flash for a second. I was expecting
Because I knew Flash was in there because they kind of spoiled that. And you obviously knew Jason Momoa was in there, which I kind of wish he had a little bit better. I thought he was going to have a little bit more than that. Like, the Jason Momoa scene was like, hey, Bob, we need to shoot this scene. You got a pool in your backyard, right? We'll build like a little cave in there. We'll have him swim out, look at the camera, and stab it. Call it good. Because that was the only thing is I thought that, like, I knew he was only going to have a cameo. I mean, I wasn't expecting, like, him to be like, by the way, 2/3 of this movie, it's a full-on Jason Momoa action the whole time. But I did expect him to have almost, like, not as big a role as Wonder Woman, but almost, like, half as big. Like,
I was expecting that. Like, I was expecting him to come in. Like, what I was actually partially expecting is because Batman's about to, like, get a spear Superman. So what he does is he, like, Lois Lane, once they kind of get that all cleared away, she grabs a spear, throws it into some water. Into, like,
oh, fuck, it's water.
It's overflooding. Like they go to the sink. Oh shit, will he pop up? You know, there's a toilet. He can come out of there. No, but like she drops it like in this thing of water. I'm like, Maybe they'll just show him finding it later or something. But then like
Who fucking put this in here? Who did this?
who put this in my fucking ocean, man? This isn't I'm tired of people fucking littering, you know. No, but like he then like Lois goes in there to get it. Rocks crumble when Doomsday's there because they need it because they change stuff for Doomsday, but that's fine because Doomsday's not really an amazing character anyway. He just looks cool. That's all.
Doomsday's pretty much this is all Doomsday's good. He's just a good person for somebody to like punch around.
He's good for punchy punch. You know, that's all it is. He doesn't. I mean,
he's kind of like he's like your off-brand Hulk, like or Abomination or something like that. It's like he's just a character that's. You throw him in there, he's a perfect character to be. If like the whole movie was just Superman and Doomsday, I don't think it'd be nearly as interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was fine for the final act. Some people say when Doomsday comes in, it just comes with a smash fest. Like, yeah,
I'm fine with smash fest.
It's a fucking. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I understand this movie. Don't get me wrong. This movie does have problems, and I do, but I still like it, even though it has problems.
Yeah, I'll say it's better than Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of like we'll actually get to that in just a second.
Because that's the best comparison. Also, it ties into our original episode.
Yeah, to our first episode. We'll actually get to that in a second because I want to mention some things about that. What was I going to say? Because people sometimes complain about like it just becomes all so much action at the end, where it's just like, well, it's a superhero movie. That's what they do. They just have
it's a Justice League movie. So like, what do you expect?
It's a big spectacle at the end, just punching and fucking fighting. You know, that's what it kind of is. So and like people make a big deal about like the whole Doomsday part, like all the imagination just goes right out the window. It's like it's the last 5 minutes of that whole thing. It's not like some big 20-minute fight with Doomsday alone. It's really probably 5, maybe 10 minutes of the whole movie is when they're fighting Doomsday. So, and when that part's done, I mean, they kind of like within that moment, yes, we get a chance to see Gal Gadot really shine. She's good throughout the movie. She just pops in for a few seconds, but I think they really should have just kept her out of the advertisements because I mean, we kind of knew she was going to be in there, but if they just kept her out of the advertisements,
it would have been a bigger surprise if you'd be like, oh, what the fuck?
Because when she actually finally shows up in the Wonder Woman outfit and they play that theme with the guitar and all that, which I thought was pretty cool. A whole bunch of girls in the audience cheered on that part.
Well, it's funny because people like there's a lot of mixed reviews about like her because I'll say once again she was like a Jesse Eisenberg. She was a better, but she still is that one where it's like that's just like a weird choice to have this. I don't know. She's just like there's when you know that there's much better choices out there. Like I still can't figure out. It's like who the fuck does she know? That's all I can think when I like watch there because it's like she's not like she was in like a whole lot of movies beforehand. I mean, her biggest thing is like. Oh yeah, she was, the most lovable character of like Fast and Furious. Han, that was his girlfriend for 2 of them or whatever. And it's just, you kind of look at her and like my problem was like that she was like always just way too skinny. And I think they must have computer enhanced her because there were scenes in there where I don't think it was her though because that's not what her normal body style is. I think they literally CG enhanced her body so she looks a little bit larger. Because that was always the thing. It's just like, It's just like I don't think she's like a horrible. I don't think she's a bad choice, but she just doesn't feel totally like Wonder Woman. I mean, I'll say she did a better job than I thought. I mean, and I know it's one you just gotta kind of accept it after a while because it's like you can't get the people you want to be in there, so might as well just take whatever they give you. Almost like a Jesse Eisenberg. Like I wish I could have The Rock as Lex Luthor. He would be perfect, but I'll accept Jesse Eisenberg and kind of Gal Gadot. It's like I'll accept her. I mean, she didn't do a bad job. She wasn't a It's what's like when I look at her, I don't really see Wonder Woman nearly as much. I see somebody trying to be Wonder Woman, but she did do still a decent job though.
I thought she did good. I think she was a good job. I mean, maybe there's probably people better than her, but I mean, regardless,
like Lucy Lawless.
There's always someone. Like who's Lucy Lawless again?
Xena, Warrior Princess.
Oh fuck! Back in like.
Well, not even back there. Like because she's still like in really good shape. And then I like this always bothers me when people say like, yeah, well she's old now. I'm like, she's 44. She's fucking younger than Ben Affleck. So what? You can have an old Batman, but you can't.
She'd be perfect. Yeah,
I saw her. She's got blue eyes, dark hair. She's well built. I think she'd be perfect. And then the other one I said too that like it seems kind of like an odd choice, but it's Gina Carano. I think she would. I get that because and the thing about her, she's not like Ronda Rousey, who's like a shitty actor. She like. In the movie she's in, once again, she's in Fast and Furious. Everybody comes from Fast and Furious nowadays, but in Deadpool, she's good in that one.
Yeah. I think you're right. I didn't even think Lucy Lawless. She would have been a perfect choice right there.
Yeah,
I
but
just
it's
think
it's
people.
that weird sexist thing that people have where like can't you can have an old man in a movie, but you can't have an old lady in a movie for like a main character.
Well, I'm glad that they still have Amy Adams. I think she's 41 or 42, and she's still looking pretty good. And she was in this movie, so that was cool. It's not one of those things. You're over 40, get the fuck out. Like Simpsons, they had like a quick. I mean, this is like a different, almost sort of a different industry, but kind of similar. It's gonna seem
Mm-hmm.
off topic, but there's like they're watching MTV. And they had some young, hot, like, girl, like spring break talk like, okay, we're having a great time here at spring break. Now we're going to show our next video. Like, it's just like, it's my favorite band. It's happy birthday to me because today I'm 30. Then all of a sudden, you see two guys in big suits walk up, like grab like, no, wait, they roll her off. And, like they bring in like some other
Young.
younger, hotter girl, like, hey guys, I'm your new VJ.
Well,
So
that's sort of how I felt. I mean, as I'll say, Gal
that's how it
Gadot, like,
is.
she did better than I thought, and I think that like they must have computer enhanced her because there's no way because she's like you look at her like in interviews and she's like fucking string bean up there, and that's the only thing that just kind of bothers me. It's just like that thing. It's like Wonder Woman's supposed to empower like, hey, here's a really strong lady, and it's like it's like you can find somebody out there. It's not that hard. She must have just had the she knew somebody, and somebody like was tied to her somehow, some way. I don't like to say it like that. Fucking Hollywood at it again. Just because you know somebody, that's why they hired you. I mean, she did the best she
She
could.
still did a good job. I think she still did a good job.
Yeah, it's like I don't think she did a bad job. I just think it's just, and I know that's kind of like that's almost like the Zack Snyder thing, is I think he likes to pick people. Well, I don't know if it's just him, but he's fucking captain of the he's fucking Obama of the the film thing, so he's gonna get the blame. But I feel it's that sort of thing that they want to pick people that aren't really like perfect for the role. They almost like choosing people that would almost make people kind of pissed off because that's almost how they've chosen just about every character, excluding like Ben Affleck and like Henry Cavill, because those two are like perfect. But
Ben Affleck
like
at the moment, people are pissed off.
oh yeah,
You know,
but
as
at
it
the
came
moment
out,
people are pissed off. So maybe that was even kind of like that because you look at Amy Adams, it's like that would nobody would ever think in 100 years that would be your choice for like Lois Lane. I mean, she does
well,
fine.
at first I was kind of like Amy Adams for Lois Lane. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. Yeah, they're gonna dye her hair. I'm like, wait, why the fuck are they dyeing her hair? And I still have trouble seeing her as Lois Lane. I think she'd be a great Lana Lang.
Yeah,
Red
exactly.
hair aside, I think she'd be a great Lana Lang. But regardless, I mean, I thought that I guess Amy Adams. I mean, she's a good actress, and I've seen her be tough and badass, but she almost has kind of like this
Farm girl look. She just doesn't have like
farm
that.
girl.
Like
She
Hank
has a little
Smallville,
bit.
like she just doesn't have like that attitude that you kind of expect of Lois Lane. She just looks too nice and like girl next story. Like she literally looks
Yeah.
more like she came from Kansas than Clark does.
Yeah, she looks a little too like kind of like you said. I mean, she has played like manipulative, strong woman in the past. Like she was like an evil cult. She was like the wife of an evil cult leader in The Master. She was like like some like super sexy seductress in American Hustle. But most of the time, though, I see her as someone being a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit more of kind of like sweeter, I guess. And I don't see Lois Lane as that. Lois Lane could have moments of that, but I see Lois Lane being more of like a tough city lady. And she doesn't do a horrible job. I just have trouble seeing her as that. But by this point, I've come to accept her.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. It's like because I went back and I rewatched Man of Steel right before like watching this because I'm like I just want to be right up to like speed with everything again. Plus, I love Man of Steel, and it's all those ones like when watching it's like is she the perfect choice for Lois Lane? No, I mean hopefully the next generation of like DC movies they'll finally just say no, let's just do it like 100%. Lois Lane, Italian. Jimmy Stewart or no,
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Olsen, fucking Irish. We're not gonna like beat around. Like everybody's gonna be there. Wonder Woman, dark hair, blue eyes. Let's just get it straight. She's big and muscular. Make her look almost like more intimidating than Superman looks. Because I think that's like one of my favorite parts. Is I love in those kind of stories. Now they don't always do it, but they do a great job. I think it's in the New Frontier one where when Superman flies down to see Wonder Woman, she fucking steps down and she's like a couple inches taller than Superman. And I think just like that kind of like strength. Now, don't have it like where it's almost like a Frank Miller one where she's like, I fucking hate dick. Like you don't need that one. Like, where's my roids? Like, I don't need to have like that Wonder Woman, but I like when Wonder Woman looks like a strong female. Like I like that where Gal Gadot. I think she still did a fine job. I mean, like without like if this was like 1970, I don't think she'd be able to pull it off because she needs that CG to help her out. She needs CG muscle implants pretty much.
If it was 1970, this movie probably wouldn't be made. B, they probably wouldn't have given a fuck. Like, oh, that's those fucking nerds that read this bullshit want, you know?
But I'm just saying,
They're
like,
saying that back in the 90s.
I'm just saying, like, a time period before you had any, like, kind of, like, major special effects. So, I mean, like, once again, I think she did, for the most part, she did good. I hope that, like, I'm just going to accept her now. Like, that's the only way you can do it, because it's, like, not like you're going to make a fucking casting decision here now at any point soon, unless you become a casting director in the next 10 years to fucking cast the next one, but...
Well, you know, at the end of the day, I would actually want to go to something a little controversial for a minute.
The Flash?
Not The Flash, no. It's something you said earlier.
Jason Momoa not having enough screen time?
Not that. It's something you said earlier that I was like, yeah, that. So I'm going to say something real quick. Now...
You also not getting fucking killed off?
No, it goes back to our first episode.
Dark Knight Return? Dark
Knight Rises.
Yes. The Dark Knight does something.
Let me say this. You're gonna be mad for a second, but just let me finish my statement, and then we can have at it right there. I think when it gets down to it, Dark Knight Rises is probably a better movie. Yet,
I'm not jumping.
I personally just chill the fuck out. I personally like this movie more, if that makes any sense. It's one of those things, because Dark Knight Rises, it felt more balanced out, it felt more paced. I mean, we kind of have our gripes about the double rise.
Yeah.
But it ultimately felt way smoother, it felt way more consistent. This movie, I think it's a little less consistent, but regardless, even though this probably isn't as well plotted out, I still like it more personally, because the stuff I like, the stuff that I think's good about this movie is better than most of the stuff in Rises, if that makes any sense. For the last act alone, for Ben Affleck being Batman, for me personally, I like the Doomsday battle. For all that in itself, I like this movie more than Rises, because at no point did I have to remind myself I was watching a Batman movie or a Superman movie. Where Rises, I think it's probably a more stronger movie, but I think this, I didn't have to remind myself, oh wait, yeah, this is Batman.
Well, because, you know, really, like, the two, like, Rises is still a really good movie. And I think
it is.
And I will say that, like, probably to somebody who, if they didn't care about superheroes a lot, you would enjoy Rises much more than you enjoyed this one, Batman v Superman. It's like Rises, it's two main, I think, problems with it. It's like, the double rise is the biggest thing. I think no matter who you are, either whether you like Batman or whether you give a flying fuck about superheroes, I think just as a story, I think the double rises is just kind of bad. But I think as a superhero thing, it's like the one part that always just bothered me about Rises, I just hate how, like, they kind of, like, they're almost afraid that they're in a superhero movie. They're more afraid that they're in a superhero movie, sort of, more than almost all the Batman movies prior to it. And I think that's my only kind of complaint. Which I do like in, like, how Batman vs. Superman's like, yeah, we're calling him Batman. Yeah, we're calling him Superman. Yeah, we're calling him Doomsday. You know, like, we'll just kind of go along with all this stuff. Yeah, she's Wonder Woman. Yeah, there's an Aquaman sign right there. It's like, we know who these people are. And I kind of like how they're not too much pigeon-footing around it anymore.
Yeah, and I just, like, my thing is, I said probably a million times, I'll just say it one more time.
Fuck the double rise.
No, not that. I'm regarding this movie. All I think they really had to do is, because there's so many, like, you know, there's a lot of little, like, B stories. If you just trim down some of those B stories, and fuck, I'm going to say it, even though it was probably the most accurate interpretation of Bruce Wayne's origin, you even saw the Zorro symbol, the Zorro poster in the background, I think it's
almost not necessary.
We know how he fucking got there. We could have probably trimmed that out, save us 5 minutes, jump in on the day of when shit was going down in Metropolis. We know who Batman is. If you don't know who Batman is by this point, fuck you. Why are you in this movie?
Well, I'll say this too. It's like, this day and age, like, I don't feel like back in the day, I understand why you sometimes have to remind people stuff, you know? But nowadays, it's like, dude, you have so many ways you could go watch an older Batman movie. So many ways, so many choices. You know, it's not like it's that thing where it's like, well, Batman played in the theater, and now unless they decide to show it again, you won't ever see it. It's like, it's not fucking 1930 anymore, like, where, like, you had your chance, and if you didn't see it, well, shit, you better go make some money and get a fucking working print somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, nowadays, I mean, I know exactly why they threw it in there, because they probably had that thing. It's
Martha thing.
Well, no, not that necessarily, but I think, that probably, but it was that thing where it's like, you know, this could be somebody's first Batman movie, so you got to throw that in there just so they know. But I still think it was kind of
All you got to do
unnecessary.
is at least have him at some point just pull out like some newspaper clippings, like he's like looking over some newspaper clippings. Bruce Wayne's family murdered or whatever, and then like, looks at picture his family, goes back. Okay, we know.
Or you
But
could have
we
just
already
you could have
did
just
know.
had that scene where like when he goes to like his parents' grave and just that's the only one. Like he's doing his yearly thing. Like if you just kept it at that one scene, because that kind of explains to everybody. All you do is you show him going to a grave with flowers, sets him down, looks up, and it says Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne. You know their years in death. Like right there.
Shot in an alley. You know,
Yeah.
love parents, shot in an alley.
John
Just get
Valley.
all the exposition
Quote from
across.
father. I knew this would fucking happen.
Fuck Zorro. Fictional characters are bullshit.
So, and yes, he did want this written on his tomb. But like, I do feel because this is one of these movies. Though I will say, I mean, I can't. I'm one of those ones. I'm totally excited that there's 30 fucking minutes that like we get to go see when this comes out on Blu-ray. I hope they don't like cheap shot us that or do that weird thing where it's like, yeah, there is, but it's not edited in the movie. It's just these like strung about scenes in the back, you know, that you got to watch in alternate takes and deleted scenes. So I'm glad that if there's a 3 hour long cut of this movie, I'm super stoked. But I will say that this movie, if it was probably trimmed down to just a tad bit over 10 or 2 hours, it probably would flow extremely well. I think that's sort of like kind of I think by making it 2.5 hours, it's not really a movie. It needs to be 2.5 hours.
I think all you had to do is probably maybe just trim, like I said it earlier,
Trim out the Bruce Wayne like kid stuff.
trim down some of the B story, and then take like some of the, because I loved all the action at the end, but maybe just
keep all that. Don't minus any action.
well, what you could have even done is maybe even like instead of just like a quick montage, because there's a montage that shows Superman saving people. There's a part at the very beginning where he saves Lois from some terrorists, and I believe somewhere in Africa, and then
yeah, where Jimmy Olsen fucking died.
which I know that was Jimmy, but yeah, it's like yep, we got Jimmy, he's fucking dead. Deal with it, and then we just got kind of like. Well, what's Superman doing? Well, he's saving people, and then just this montage of just literally him at the Day of the Dead, him catching that exploding rocket, him like floating above some people, and they're reaching up to him like he's Jesus during a flood, you know. So it's one of those things like that was all literally ripped in the trailer. I think we could have just probably used maybe just a few little like separate moments of him saving people of like I don't know, you know, just. I just could have used a little, if maybe just some of the B story was trimmed in the first place, then we probably wouldn't even need more action to just pace it out, you know?
Yeah, well, this kind of goes like with so many movies nowadays. I don't know what it is, but this is kind of what bothers me. Is this so many movies now? Like the trailers almost sort of like not I say like ruin the movie, but like I feel like what you're getting in the movie is you're getting the extended cut of that trailer. And like great movies are guilty of it. Like the Deadpool one was another example where I just felt like that whole movie was in the trailer, and then you just get the extended cut of it. Now, like it's a comedy and stuff like that, so it kind of works. But there was nothing surprising in that movie. You know, Terminator 5 was another example like that one where, I mean, yeah, once again you get all these extra stuff in there, but like they spoil stuff like right in the trailer. And then Batman vs Superman, I think was like almost like your worst example of it, is that they showed you everything in the trailer. It's like there's Batman. There's Superman. There's Wonder Woman. There's, like Doomsday. It's like, do you need to show us that? Well, there's Flash. There's Jason Momoa. It's just like, no. Stop telling us this. Just let us know it's Batman punching Superman and just cut it at that. Maybe show Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. But maybe don't even do that. Maybe just show just Batman and Superman. That's all you have.
And that's even kind of like one of those things where they have...
Because they're in the title.
Well, they even said, like, you know, they did like Jason Momoa, Flash, Cyborg. Those weren't even in the trailers, but they said it. They gave news. Hey, just so you know, look for this. It's just like no, just let that be a surprise. Like I was actually, even though I think I may have heard something about that, I was a little surprised to see Cyborg. But
well, that was the only one that I didn't know. I mean, like I might have heard something, but like that was not like the confirmed one because they were like pushing in your face, like yeah, Flash is in there, and guess what? He's not that guy you love on TV. He's some other douche, and you're like, well, I don't know, he's a douche. Yeah, well, he is, and you get used to it because we're making our own Flash. And you're like, oh, that would have been so cool if you would have just been watching that where Batman's sleeping there, and all of a sudden like fucking Flash is in his face, because you'd be like, you would have that same reaction that Bruce Wayne had. You'd be like, what the fuck, Flash is there? Like, but I kind of like it was like, yeah, that's got to be Flash. Why? Because they've kind of told me that over and over and over again that that's who was going to be in the movie, and he was going to have a speedy entrance.
And I think one other thing people have been a little harsh about the movie is people say they got all like this. You know, I think there are those. You got like now we got a lot of critics who actually do like comics now, but maybe they're like still kind of picky about it because they're preparing for sequels and they should just be focused on this one. Then you got the critics who wear turtlenecks, they're balding, and they never picked up a fucking comic in their life. You got the ones where you get that scene with like Flash coming in saying, Bruce, this is you were right about him. Oh shit, I came back to Earth. You know, and then people are like, what the fuck was that? That never came back around full circle. Where, if you know this shit, I feel like that's one of those things that's more made for a comic fan than a standard
I
movie
think so
goer.
too.
I think that this movie was actually more going for a comic fan than a standard movie goer. It just could have been done just a little better, but it was still an enjoyable movie.
Well, because here's the thing, I think me and you enjoyed it more than anybody else did so far from my talk to.
Actually,
Well, actually, take that back. I've met some people that love the fuck out of this so far. They thought it was like the most perfect like interpretation of it.
I'll
But
say
like for me, it's like was like I want to go see it again because I want to make sure for sure I see this twice in theaters, just because it's Batman. You can't just let that happen without seeing it again.
I'll say this actually, for as much negative reaction as this movie got, from just primarily critics, people always seem to defend a couple of things. Like, yeah, the action between him and Superman, amazing. Ben Affleck is Batman, amazing. And then the other thing though is I notice even though even critics give those parts praise, Twitter is really on this movie. If I type in hashtag Batman v Superman, I'll see a couple negative tweets, but nearly most of the tweets I see like don't believe the critics, the movie's worth your time. And it's even from people who don't have like a Batman avatar or something like that. It's like, it's actually nearly most, I mean, there's some negative ones, but most of the tweets I see are, positive.
Yeah, well, I don't think like. I mean, it'd be kind of hard to like say you hate this movie because if you say you hate this movie, you probably just hate comics in general. Like that's all I have to say. Because there's no way you could get around not like enjoying it. It's just one of those ones. It's kind of like, well, I'll say this. It's kind of like something like a Justice League, comic book. Generally Justice League stories are never like those stories. You're like, holy fuck, that was perfect. That's mostly always reserved for like a Batman issue or a Superman solo story or a Green Arrow one. Like, and I think that's kind of how you got to look at it. It's like, it's supposed to be like, hey, we're going to have some fun here. Somebody's going to get punched in the face, I wish there were some other characters that were throwing punches. Like, Mercy never threw a single punch. That kind of bothered me, but whatever.
She blew up.
Yeah, and she blew up. So, like,
I assumed that was just...
They were kind of like ixnaying, like, some smaller characters, like, left and right. I'm like, poor Man of Steel 2 movie. They're just knocking characters left and right out of it. Like, we're not going to do it anyway, so we can just kill them off. Like, who cares?
I assume Mercy, maybe I was expecting too much science fiction stuff. I assume there's going to be, like, a test tube, like, assembly line of a bunch of Mercies or something like that,
Oh, yeah. Well, I always thought, too, like, there was that guy, like, the guy that blew up that used to work for Wayne, and then like Lex Luthor used him as like a terrorist. When I first saw that guy, like, and they brought him in, I was like, are they fucking setting up Metallo? And then they said the guy's name, and I'm like, oh, it's not. But I was like, because when I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's almost like a way you could have done it, because you could have taken this crippled guy and say, hey, you want to get your revenge?
That's what I was thinking. And
because I was like, it was such a perfect setup for like that. I mean, it would have been a little bit different origin story, but you would have been able to be like, hey, I got it. Because like you already introduced the kryptonite. You have a crippled man. Now you can put him into this suit.
What I think this movie doesn't do it too much. It did a little bit of it, but not too much of it. I think sometimes people are too focused on the the super villain origin. I think sometimes you could literally open up and just have a villain, you can knock it out of the way real quickly. For instance, even though I kind of gone over this multiple times, Amazing Spider-Man. We don't need to have a somewhat sympathetic villain out of
Jamie Foxx.
Electro, which, I like Jamie Foxx, and Electro is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, but that was a bad fucking interpretation. They literally could have just opened up, like, okay, we got a bunch of test subjects. Oh, what the fuck is that? That's Electro.
That's Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. That's Max Dillon. Hey, some years back, we had a false experiment. It went bad. Rather than let him out, we just been using him to power up Oscorp. Oh, okay. He breaks out. I mean, written more eloquently than that. But I mean, I think that's what you can get something like that done way sooner. I think Electro, Metallo would have been perfect. And you know what you could have done for Metallo? Maybe, I mean, this is spitballing here. I'm not saying I'm mad at the movie didn't do this, but I think if you were to do Metallo, you don't got to do his backstory of how, like, oh, I am so angry about Superman turning me into this. I think you could literally do that. Yeah, so we were trying to make a cyborg. You could do this, you could do that. We can only power them for a little bit at a time just because the mechanics aren't working. We just usually keep this thing on ice. Oh, wait, we got kryptonite. Let's try that as the power source. Okay. You know?
And boom, yeah, it just starts to work from there. Well, because yeah, when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, fuck. And sometimes it's always that thing. I feel like we've done this in every single one of these movies where we think so much ahead. Just like Dark Knight Rises, like, dude, that guy right there, that's Deadshot. How the fuck could that not be Deadshot? Look at him. He's got guns. He's got ammo on. He's just...
A red scarf.
Yeah, like...
Oh, he's just some guy.
Yeah, no, he's just some guy that, you know... I did like how like they also had some other like kind of small characters in there. How they also had like Vicky Vale was in there, even though she really had like one line, but still.
Oh, was she one of the news reporters?
Well, she was there right when like Jesse Eisenberg goes up and kind of like fumbles his speech. She introduces him. She's like, it says her name, and then I can't remember what the fuck she says, but she's like, and here we go. Here's Jesse Eisenberg, and he's like, no, no, no. He goes up there and starts saying stuff, And then they also have, well, it's kind of interesting how they're going to have, like, that chick that they keep calling Ferris in this one. They're like, oh, that's going to be Carol Ferris if we ever decide to do a Green Lantern thing. Mm. Maybe. It might be one of those ones. By the time they finally get around to Green Lantern, probably she'll be, like, ixnayed, but it's still kind of a cool start.
Hal never even meets her, you know? It's Jon Stewart, so she never gets a chance to meet Hal, so there's no real purpose for her in the first place.
I know, because everybody's all, like, anti-Hal anymore, so it's just like, they're like, fuck that white guy. Get him out of the fucking picture. He screwed it up because he was white. And it's like, well, I really don't think that's why. Overall, I like that Green Lantern movie. That's because you're a fucking Green Lantern fan. That's why you like that movie. Oh yeah, well, I like Green Lantern. I was starting to sound like fucking Michael Cera.
well, I you're being a little harsh on it. I think that there's something to be said about Green Lantern.
It's like, yeah, fuck you and your Green Lantern. Because Green Lantern, I don't know what it is. Like, have you ever noticed that people just fucking, like, science hate Green Lantern? Like, people that aren't really, like, DC fans, like, they'll just jump on his fucking balls. Like, that is the stupidest fucking character I have ever seen. And then I notice that anybody who gets, like, deep into DC, they're like, dude, fucking Green Lantern's where it's fucking at, man.
I mean, I said it before. That movie, it's not that I think the movie's god-awful. I just think it kind of did what most superhero movies do when it could have gone anywhere. But I get what they were trying to do. But regardless, I don't think that movie. I think most of the superhero movies people shit on. Say, oh my god, what a god-awful, atrocious piece of shit.
I always seem to like
most of the time. Most of the times, whenever they say that about a particular superhero movie, it's like maybe the movie's not perfect. Maybe the movie clearly has problems, but it's not nearly as bad as people make it out to be.
Well, that's how I think about a lot. Kind of like I was kind of like, you could say that also like the B superhero movies. Your A-listers are like, your Avengers, your Batmans, your Supermans, and all that stuff. And then the B-list kind of like you pull random. You can almost say like something like Ant-Man, sort of a B movie, but it pans out
at the time.
Really well.
Daredevil,
huh?
Daredevil at the time.
Daredevil's kind of a B. Well, I'd even say still like that's kind of like the B one, where it's like it's not like a character that like you almost people a lot of times are going to that movie just because they see the Marvel title, like, oh well, it'll probably be just as good as Spider-Man and X-Men,
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like some of those B ones. Like, I like the Jonah Hex one. Is it a perfect movie? No, not at all. But it's kind of cool. And hey, it's the first time we have to have Jonah Hex in live action, so I'm not complaining. And it's like the Green Lantern one. I actually like that one. Like, it's not the best one, but I think it kind of still represents Green Lantern pretty well. It's not like he's doing anything totally wrong in the movie. It's not like he's going around fucking killing people left and right, being like, you know what I mean? It's not like he's strapping fucking bombs to people and throwing. Now I'm using all Batman references, but it's that thing where it's like not perfect. Could it be better? Yeah, but it's still fun. Like, I didn't walk. I still walk out of that movie with a smile.
Here's one little thing I'll say real quick. I just want to elaborate on something I said earlier in the podcast. Some people have been kind of complaining about this movie about trying to get too many things in there, which I kind of see to a certain extent. But some people are kind of like giving shit to DC for just trying to get to Justice League, which part of me understands why you just want to kind of get to Justice League. Because some people are saying, well, see, Marvel, they earned it. They took their time. They got to Avengers. And by the time they got to Avengers, all these characters were recognized. All these characters were known. But the thing about Avengers, I watched both of them not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. You
could literally watch Avengers without having seen Iron Man and Captain America and Thor.
Oh, you'd be totally
and have an idea of what's going on. It's not that like, I mean, if you know the characters, it probably would run a little smoother and you'd probably get certain references a little quicker, but it's not like you have to see those in order to know what's going on in this particular movie. Where I think I kind of understand, it's one of those things like, Yeah, sure. Just go to Justice League because that's what a lot of people want to see. We already have the Flash TV show. Just go to the Flash movie by this, or just go to the Justice League, and then we'll go to the Flash movie from there. I just think it's kind of one of those things. We've already spent roughly. I mean, we took what? It took 5 years to get 5 or 6 years to get to the Avengers. From Iron Man 1 to Avengers took 5 or 6 years, I think. Now do you really need to see that whole thing, that whole dynamic again? I think it's kind of cool if they just kind of start to build it within the movie. Just kind of like, hey, you're Wonder Woman. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's go onward from here. I mean, it could have been done a little better, but I don't think that's a major problem in the long run because I don't think you need to have, by the time you get to the Justice League, you don't have to go like, wait, so we have to work together? You don't have to have that whole thing.
Well, here's
you know
the
what I mean?
difference,
You already
though,
saw
is
that
like,
in
okay, with
Avengers.
so anybody who complains about that is probably a fucking idiot in the first place, because the thing is because with the Avengers, a lot of those guys never had movies beforehand, though. Captain America was the only guy that had movies before this, because, Iron Man never had movies before that. So I understand, like, why you built it up that way. Hulk didn't really have movies, excluding that one, but, Thor never had movies, so it made sense for all those guys to have movies that lead into the Avengers, where it's like, this is, in a sense, the sixth Superman movie, seventh if you include the Supergirl movie. Batman-wise, this is the
Ninth or 10th?
Ninth
Including,
one. If just, like,
yeah,
live
including
action.
Phantasm.
No,
and,
not
yeah.
not including any like animated ones.
Okay.
So it's like one of those ones like these guys. Yeah, but if you include the animated ones, because that's the one thing, Marvel doesn't have a whole lot of animated movies. There's a ton of this stuff already out there, so it's like, why you don't need to build up to this. There's not characters that people have no idea about that you need to really introduce them to, that you can use Batman and Superman already set up. And I wish they would just use Green Lantern. I wish they would just say, hey, let's just kind of keep fucking Hal Jordan there. If we do another Green Lantern one, we can start off with that being the Jon Stewart movie and the other guys, but let's just keep Ryan Reynolds as fucking Hal. They should just, why even change that? Like, it's like was once too. It's like, especially with the success of Daredevil, you want fucking Ryan Reynolds back. Like, why would you?
Oh, you mean Deadpool?
Or yeah, that's what I meant. Fuck, they all start with the D's and they confuse me because they got the double D's and I don't know. But like right now, this would be the time to go. No. Green Lantern is still canon. That's still part of our series, and in fact, that's like our Incredible Hulk. Okay, not everybody seemed to enjoy it, but it's what starts it.
Mm-hmm.
They should just do that, and then like, cause yeah, after Deadpool, fucking have him come back in, and it's like, well, here you go. Here's Ryan Reynolds. He's back. He's Hal Jordan. Now he's all trained up. He's done some shit. Boom, and then you introduce Jon Stewart and the rest of the gang right there. But you don't have to like build up like, how does he get the ring? Where does he have to go? What does he have to? I mean, because that was all established in Green Lantern 1. Like, whether or not you like that movie does a perfect job of establishing the entire Green Lantern world and kind of like what it is. That I always thought that movie, if you did a second Green Lantern right after that one, it would be fucking amazing. Because everything was established already. You were set. It was like your Amazing Spider-Man, where it's just like, okay, you get all that storyline put up or, whatever, but the next one should be sweet.
I think that it's one of those things where, for kind of like what I was saying for Justice League, because I'm okay with them. Because originally, what they were talking about doing was doing like Justice League and then spinning off solo movies from there. And I think that's an interesting idea. Because the thing about that is, like you said, by this point, we have the Flash TV show. I think we've seen Green Lantern enough by this point. I think this movie right here, I mean, like I said earlier, well, I won't say it again because I said it a million times, but make the movie a little tighter. And then I think some of that stuff leading into Justice League worked fine. I think it seemed, the movie already seemed a little overcrowded to a certain extent. So I think that stuff is fine if you just jumped in, because people already, by this point, probably have an idea of who the Flash is. Mm-hmm. So just jump in. Oh, he's already going around saving people, doing what he does. He's just not as well known as Batman or Superman by this point,
Well, also, too, it's like, same thing, too. It's like, with having the internet nowadays, it's almost like there's no excuse for being able to, like, I mean, like, you could explain these characters really quickly, and if people want to know more, just look that shit up. You got a fucking phone in your pocket. Like, don't give me that bullshit excuse. I mean, that kind of thing that it's like when they talk about the people that like, it's like, well, they might not know what's going on. It's like, well, you're talking to people that are probably like senior citizens. It's like, is that really like your target audience? I mean, you got to cut the line somewhere where it's just like, I mean, like, you can explain everybody's origin in under 5 minutes. If you can't do that,
Mhm.
then well, you're clearly not a good enough like storyteller. You know what I mean?
And they even did that with Batman's for the opening credits.
Yeah,
That's
like the
what the
Batman one,
opening
like that's a
credits
perfect
is.
example. Like that's how you should tell everybody's storyline. It's just like that's all it takes. It doesn't take much, you know, and just get it going. But overall, Batman vs Superman. I can't wait to actually see it again. I feel like I'll actually like it even more the second time seeing it, just kind of knowing how everything goes, and then I think that once they release that extended cut, I think that might kind of fill in some of the gap. It might actually, even though I know we're saying shorten the movie, but strange enough, I feel like there's some points where like it almost needs just a little bit of an extension towards it to make it flow a little bit better. Kind of that weird
Hmm.
thing where some parts can be shorter, some parts can be longer, but I think once we get that kind of cut out there, you'll see everything and just kind of accepting it. Because really, like, overall, I love the movie. I thought that Superman was fucking great. Everything about him was fantastic. And weirdly enough, I just think that Batman, and I really, when it comes down to Batman, just the main things that bother me more, it's just, I think it's the killing. Like, I think if that wasn't in there,
Hmm.
I'd almost like the movie. It sounds weird. I almost like the movie like a 3.5 out of 4. I feel somehow, some way in the back of my mind that just pulls it down a bit. Because it just feels wrong.
Well, I'll say the more we talked about it, the more I liked the movie a little bit more. But I think that I still just liked the
Yeah.
movie. I didn't love it. I just liked it. And if we're going off the Litter Moulton scale, I'm giving this probably 3 out of 4. We're not critics, and I don't try to like come across as critics or
We're not
nothing. But
critics, but
that's
technically
just
I
how I
think that our
feel.
opinions are better than a lot of critics anyways for the fact that because we're the positive critics that don't go like, I want to shit on everything. Because we're like the people who are like, dude, I fucking find the best and everything. I love Green Lantern movies, so go figure. Like that's a guy you should trust. It's a guy we're
Well,
like
we just
Amazon
try to
critics,
we just
because whenever you go on Amazon, no matter what movie it is, I mean it's gotta be a really bad movie for it to have bad reviews because you go on there and you find the fans of whatever movie that is. A movie that could be like fucking hated in theaters, you go on there and everybody's like, well, the Green Lantern, that's perfect. You go on there, it's got a bunch of 5-star reviews because the people that like Green Lantern a lot went on there and said, you know what? This was like a Silver Age Green Lantern, comic movie come to life. I fucking love this movie. Go fuck yourself if you don't. So,
is that a quote from one of your
no, I
reviews?
didn't review that one, but I wish I did because I would put something cool like that. But no, I think that yeah, here's the thing. Maybe it's like also, we've seen so many superhero stuff by this point that I think that you just get to a point where it's hard to be surprised. It's like you're not going to get that same feeling you get from watching like a Batman Begins, again. So Batman Begins
Mhm.
again, or even like
No, I get you.
even watching something like the '76 Superman movie. I think it's kind of hard to capture that same feel that like the first time you see some of these movies and you're like, oh fuck. I always just think like the '89 Batman movie. When I was a kid, I was like, this is fucking amazing. And then I saw the '66 one, I'm like, this is fucking amazing. And then it just kind of carries on. But now we got to this point where, and I think it's almost the animated movies. I think the animated movies sometimes bring down the live action movies because you watch the animated movies and they're so goddamn good, so fucking perfect. Like really like the worst one out of the animated movies, if that was live action, it would still be fucking like amazing. So I think when you see these live
Mhm.
action movies, it's almost kind of like this bar has been set so high by all those guys at Warner Brothers Animation that you watch the live action Warner Brothers movies and you're like, well, they're good, but this just doesn't blow you away. Because that's how I felt when I walked out of that theater. It was like I felt good. I wasn't like, what the fuck was that? Like they raped my like Batman childhood. Like nothing gay like that. It was just a thing where I just kind of walked out like that was good. But it was like I felt like I was longing for just something extra, and maybe it's just because this is a setup movie. I think that might have something to do with it too. Like you in a sense, they're kind of prepping people for like this world where I guess people like us kind of come from like, well, yeah, we already kind of know this stuff. So Batman vs Superman 2 or Justice League 2 or whatever the hell they're gonna do next, that one might be super sweet because it's already established. And now that Batman and Superman are friends, is what we pretty much need. I think they'll be ready to go. And this is almost a stepping stone. Almost like you could say, like it's like the first Avengers compared to like the second Avengers. You know what I mean? Like the first Avengers, it's good. It's not really like a perfect movie. Maybe it's a little bit too long. There's some things that could be better about. But then you get to like the second Avengers movie, and that second one's really fucking good.
Which is we're the minority on that because I like the second one way more than the first one. But I see what you mean there. But the thing about this movie is when you say a setup movie, that's the thing a lot of people have problems with. A lot of people have problems setting up and preparing for the next one. Where in this case, this
Like
movie,
Spaceballs, it's like we're always preparing. Why do we keep preparing? Let's just go. Okay, just go.
where this one right here, I didn't even think about like it wasn't even the preparing for the sequels that bothered me. Like I said, it just seemed like maybe it's kind of like what you said earlier. This may sound weird. Like, this movie seems a little long. Maybe that 30 more minutes will fix it. It sounds a little weird saying that, but I think that maybe with those extra 30 minutes, that might give some of those more lingering long scenes a little bit more context. And within that, there may have been something more to keep it more exciting, to keep it going. Because, yeah, like the first half, I'm going to say, the first bit, even though it was taking its time, it was cool. There's a little bit of action here and there. It's just all the political stuff, all the stuff about going back and forth between Lex Luthor and his plan just took a little too long. And I think that maybe with more context, possibly, maybe the 30 minutes will make that movie slow down way fuck and make it lay the fuck down and make it way longer. But the possibility might add more context and more of a plot that because there was a girl in the movie who they're saying might be Carrie Kelly, and she had a whole bit, but then like all her
Who was
scenes
the
were
girl from
cut.
Carrie Kelly? Like the one he says from like the building crashing?
No, no, no. There was a girl who was a redhead, and I didn't say who she was cast as, but there's a rumor that she was Carrie Kelly, and she
Oh,
had a
okay, okay.
whole
I know the movie. I thought you were saying that was actually in the movie. I'm like, I don't fucking remember that.
oh no, and they were actually she had a whole bunch of scenes, and they were cut. Apparently, her whole part was cut from the movie.
Oh,
So
I heard
maybe
about that.
so
I didn't
maybe
know
in
that was
that
Carrie Kelly though.
maybe in that context, some of these more lingering parts might make more sense. But like I said, it's not really the setup that bothered me because to me, every comic book is preparing you for the next story arc. Though in what context of where I think it kind of too much setup kind of brings it down is Amazing Spider-Man 2 is always my example, but I think more than anything it was just more the advertisement department just gave too much away, and on top of that there is also just the logic between certain things. Kind of like, okay, how's the sickly kid with no combat experience sneaking into this facility trying to steal like this shit? And why do we need to build up Electro before we just do the same thing we do with every Spider-Man villain? So it's more like this movie didn't really have that, but it had like the other problems that I said previously. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like it's one of those ones. I think that from this point on, they're only just gonna get like it's that stepping stone, and it'll just get better and better. And I mean, overall, it's one of those ones. It's a really sweet movie. I think that like there's no way you couldn't like it. If you didn't like it, it's probably because you just don't like superhero movies in the first place. Because I could think of the kind of people that would say they didn't like this movie, but they're the kind of people that, they if they like superhero movies, they're like select ones, you know.
Well, I've talked to some friends of mine who do like this kind of shit, and some people they just didn't who do like superheroes and do like comics. They didn't like it just because they thought it was too long and just Batman killing and whatever other reason. So I'm not gonna try
Well, the
and
Batman killing, that's like the one that's like there's no, it's just that's the one there's no way you can like argue around that. It's just it's kind of like when you first watch in the beginning of Arrow, and in like those first couple episodes, and you're like, oh my god, he's fucking killing left and right. What is going on? Like it's like melting your brain because it's just like it seems so fucking wrong. Like
when he's flying around like in like the bat when he's flying around like in the bat jet just taking people out in this movie, you almost kind of think is he humming like the Batman Forever, Batman and Robin song in his head, but just like murder, 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 murder.
Well, and at least in Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, there's nobody getting killed from Batman and Robin.
I just
It's just
think
like
he's humming that song of all songs in his head, but just playing murder to the beat of the song because he does so much. But that, regardless, in comparison to everything else, I just kind of accepted it by this point in the movie. So even though I would do without it.
So yeah, I feel like we'll just go with this movie. I feel like this movie, it's not like Dark Knight Rises, where like for like the end of time, it'll always be like, man, if it just wasn't for that double rise, and then you'll keep going into those like speeches. But I do feel this will be one of these movies that will be talked about for quite some time. Maybe not as long as Dark Knight Rises, but I don't know. Before we get to the very end here, if you had it's only a one-time view, but how would you kind of scale this so far in your Batman movies? You don't have to like list the entire ones out, but or let's say Batman and Superman, because I keep feeling bad because I keep saying fucking Batman, like Superman's like not like even in this movie, but even though I'm like the one guy who's actually defending Superman,
let's say
like
Batman,
I'm the guy taking a bullet.
Let's say Batman because Batman has more movies, and I think it's easy to place the Superman movies on a scale. Where this one, it's more Batman. There's way more Batman movies, so I think it's easier to place.
I think we can do both though.
So
way to end the show. Like you don't have to name them all off, but if you had to name like okay, in your top 3 Batman and your top 3 Supermans, Or top 5 even, because I'm assuming it probably weighs in about close into at least one of those sections.
Let's go with top 5 of each of them, all right?
Because it's going to be at 5 and 5 for the...
And we're just keeping the live action. We're not going to animated. We're just keeping in live action.
No animated, or else it wouldn't probably exist.
Yeah.
5.
Okay. Yeah. If you're going top 5 Batman movies, in all honesty, I'm going. This is going to sound a little weird, maybe for a second, but to me, the top 2, they kind of share the spot, but the top 2 spots Begins in Dark Knight, then probably 89 Batman, then probably this right here, and then Dark Knight Rises.
Now, Brett, if mine went this way, I'd probably go, Batman Begins, then probably... It's a weird one. Between Dark Knight and Batman, I'll say Dark Knight's the better Batman movie, but there's always just that special place for the 89 Batman movie all at the same time. So it's always kind of like one of those ones, technically Dark Knight's better, but I'll just say Dark Knight, then I'll say Batman 89, and then I'll probably this is probably similar to the years, and then probably this, but then number 5 would be Batman and Robin, because I still love Batman and Robin. I just have a good time.
The movie needs its defenders here and there, I guess.
It needs its defenders, and I like to
I feel like a dick kicking that movie down. I don't like that movie, but I don't like making fun of it. I feel like everything that's been said has already been said. It's just move on. There's other jokes to be made.
And it's as well as one for me. It's it was just a perfect time period. If for somebody who was a huge fucking Batman fan and a huge Arnold fan and being a 10-year-old kid, it just hit everything at the perfect time. It was just I think if I was older, it wouldn't have worked out well. If I was maybe well, you'd probably be younger, it'd still work. But it was just. I was the perfect age for that time period, and plus being just those 2 big fans. As a kid, that was the 2 things I looked at so highly. If they would have thrown Wolverine in that movie, it would have just topped it off more than anything else and would have not made any sense.
Yeah.
And then Superman-wise, I have to say this one's probably up there, but I don't know. Christopher Reeve's one probably be in the first, then maybe Man of Steel, then maybe this movie, and then I like Superman Returns, actually. Fuck those people who don't like that movie.
Mine's kind of similar. Let me say this real quick. I'm not saying it's the better movie. It's just my personal preference. My personal preference of all Superman movies, favorite, get ready for this, Man of Steel. I know that's unpopular opinion, but I like Man of Steel. That's my favorite Superman movie. So Man of Steel, probably the original, the first Christopher Reeves, Richard Donner one, the Superman 2.
Which version of Superman 2? Richard Donner version or the other guy's version?
I've only seen the original version. I didn't see the Donner version. I have to check it out at some point.
They're both good. It's just kind of they have just different things going on. That'd be a fun podcast. do Superman 2, the different versions.
That'd be a good retrospect, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then probably Batman. Then probably Batman versus Superman, and then Superman Returns.
Yeah. So we're pretty much on the same page as that. So good movie. Go see it. But till then, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, and more. If you want to help support us, there'll be some kind of Amazon link in the description. Link into something related to this movie, which I have no idea what's related to this other than Batman vs. Superman, but maybe we'll throw the book in there or something like that for the new Scott Snyder one, because that could tie in for next episode. And then you can also go to Patreon and type in Old Man Orange, and you can become a monthly supporter there, which is always nice and fun, and helps give a little something to the podcast. But till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. If you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.